Alrighty, good evening everybody, welcome to this week's stream. Hopefully we are in fact live and you can hear me. And then in just a second, let me get my headset on. That'd be a good idea, wouldn't it? Oh, yes. No, this is definitely working. Let me just get the volume mixer open because this is loud. Sorry, I'm going to transition into the game in a second, but the game volume was excruciatingly loud, so I've just turned that down. Here we are. Right. Get this on. Switch over and unmute. There we go. Welcome to episode 100 of the M4J Network. And just as I start my stream, all my viewers appear to have left. That's good to see. But yeah, welcome back. I am, of course, M4J, and we start tonight where we left off last time, which is here at Cardtown Sorting Depot, which is the mail sorting depot for the western side of Guard City. And I'm going to explicitly say for the western side. Right now it's for the entirety of, but in the future it will be for the western side, and that is what it has been built for. So, only right that that's what we refer to it as. Good evening, George. Welcome to the stream. Sorry you can't be here for the duration, but it's good to have you here for at least some of it anyway. Let me get up the Q&A as well. There we are. Also check that I'm recording to the right spot. Yes, sweet. Right. Yeah, no worries. Uniwork comes first. That's absolutely fine. Gert Jan, congratulations for the 100th episode. I need to say 1000th then. God, can you imagine? Congratulations for the 100th episode of the M4J Network. Thank you very much. So I'm going to do a little thing at the end, if I remember, to do all my little dedications and things. But yeah, it's been a bit of a slog to get here. And I didn't think we were going to get here at various points. But it is very nice to be here. So quick thank you to everyone as a generalization right now, just for helping me get to this stage. 100 episodes is always huge. I think this is only the 5th series of mine that's actually made it to 100 episodes. The last one that made it to 100, I believe, was the Jeffries Network. So it is a huge, huge deal that we've made it this far. And there's plenty more to come. This series isn't stopping anytime soon. Plan is to keep going, at least for as long as there's an audience for it, of course. Excuse me. Right. So yeah, we got some questions that need to be answered. If you have any questions during the stream, feel free to ask them. I will answer them. I might not answer them straight away because I'll prioritize the ones who the ones that were asked in advance first. I do want to say one other thing as well quickly. So a Q&A was the most requested thing for episode 100. I think 5 or 6 different people requested it, and yet I put out messages on Discord, Reddit, Facebook, Twitter and YouTube asking for people to ask questions, and I think out of the 5 or 6 only 2 people actually asked questions. It's a little disappointing. Plus I put out a poll for whether this would be a video, a premiere or a stream, and 9 people actually voted in the poll. Now I know not everyone who subscribes to me is a OpenTTD fan. Most people, I think, out of the new subscribers are here for Football Manager, which is fine, but it would be nice if people voted in these polls and actually used their voice, because I'm giving you the voice, so use it. That's all I'm saying with that. And if I ask for questions, feel free to ask them. That was the pipe falling out of my window. It just gave me a heart attack. Whew. Don't even know if you heard that. But yeah, use it. You know, I'm not asking. They're not rhetorical questions. They're genuine questions. I want to get as many of you involved as possible, and it's so awesome to see you guys getting involved. I don't want to start. I mean, it sounds like a moan, but it's not really. It's a call to action. If anything, I want to see as many people involved as possible. This is a community channel, after all, built with you as viewers in mind. So please, 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 if I do ask for people to vote in polls and things like that, don't worry about people reacting to your answers. The polls are anonymous anyway, so no one knows what you voted for. Only I know what I voted for. Everyone else, it's completely anonymous. And if I ask for questions for a Q&A, you can DM them to me if you don't want other people to see them publicly, and I won't read out who asked them. That's fine. But yeah, just a little thing at the top of the show. I kind of feel like I have to do friendly reminders. I know some people sometimes feel like their voice doesn't matter and their opinion doesn't count and things like that. And that's why I just want to keep sort of reinforcing the point that everyone has a say on this series, in this community. Don't worry about people knocking your ideas or anything like that. That's not what we're here for. We're all here for the same reasons after all. Trust me, no one worries about their ideas getting mocked more than me, so I'm never going to do that to somebody else. Right, so yeah, this is Card Town, as I said, and this is Guard City. I really can't hear myself speak. This music is so loud. Is the music loud for you guys as well? I know I have a... I ask this every week as well, I know. But let me know if it's too loud and I'll turn it down. Let me know if you can hear me as well even, and I'll turn it down. Good evening. Thank you very much. It is a big deal. It's a massive deal. I know. Very, very exciting. I need to put more enthusiasm in my voice. I always feel like I'm like, yeah, woo, we did it. But no, seriously, I am genuinely excited that we've got to this stage. Episode 100, it is massive. And I'm actually going to jump into the first question whilst we're hovering over Guard City, because the first question I actually got, which is the second question I added to the list because I'm an idiot, is what on earth is the Hatfield Light Railway? In fact, why not just a tour of Guard City's railways? This is from Master Trams on Discord. Good evening if you are watching. Good question, actually, the HLR. So, we'll start off with a little bit of a history lesson, and we'll go from there. So, for those of you that don't know, this is the third map that I've made videos on in OpenTTD. All three maps are available on my website. Link is in the description. You can download them. The first two maps are as of the last episode that was recorded. Oh, the music is loud, but you can hear me. Okay, hang on. Let me see if I can... Oh, what's that? Hang on. Jump to Streamlabs as well. Oh, I'm being hosted. Thank you very much for the host. Awesome stuff. I am now Twitch famous. So yeah, the first two maps are up to the last episode that was made on those maps. There might be a little bit of background tweaking that happened after that, but that's pretty much the timeline. So I think one is from 2014 and one's from 2016, something like that. This map is actually the end of the McJeffries network and the beginning and the entirety, in fact, of the M4J network. So when we started episode 1 of this, if you want to go back and rewatch episode 1, you'll see that most of this stuff here already existed. There's a few small, like the sorting office didn't exist, obviously, and what else is new? The Transrapid, actually no, that did exist, but it would change very quickly afterwards. This line here, out of GSMA, pretty sure that didn't exist, the southeastern main line. And then, I think the HLR down through Shoreham didn't exist, and the HLR west of St. Michael didn't exist. And because we're talking about the HLR, let's get into that story. So, the way the McJeffries network ended was probably not on a high, to be honest. I got a bit sick of some of the toxicity that was going on and just thought, can't be bothered. But when we came back, which I think was like 12 months later, something like that, I had big plans for what I wanted to do with the network. And one of the first things I wanted to do was take the Transrapid line, which originally, instead of terminating at GSJ, which is Guard City St. John here, which I think was the first station to ever be built on this map, it used to come through where the HLR now runs, and then it went through Guard Lake and did this really weird S shape, had a station at Guard Lake, which I think was where the trams now is, or it might have been further south, I can't remember. And then it went through here to a station with at St. Michael here, which again might have been a little bit further down, I'm trying to remember actually. And then it continued to the west down to Morningpool Falls. It was a really dumb idea to build the Transrapid like that. I don't know why I did it, but I think it was... Actually, I don't want to predict who it was because I'll probably get it wrong, but someone suggested, why don't I use that for a branch of the Hatfield Light Railway? So the reason it's called the Hatfield Light Railway, first of all, Hatfield Town here is a region area of Guard City. Hatfield is where I'm from in real life. And I decided to name an area Hatfield, which again was a viewer suggestion actually. And Hatfield Town Stadium is right here, even though it isn't. I need to find a new GRF of a stadium. And then we got the Docklands area, and this is where the HLR came from. So Guard City St. George, which is over here, was the second station to my knowledge, that was built on this map. And as part of that, we had a branch line that ran from Guard City St. George. You can see the remnants of it here. In fact, I deliberately left this intact as a reminder as to what used to be here. So the 4 bridges across here to Guard Lake and beyond always existed. Are these 2 on the same timetable, by the way? Yes, they are. That's something I'm going to come back to later on in this video as well. But yeah, where the HLR now is, this station here, this used to be a bridge that went over, and then the track curved round and then followed this line all the way down to Lafayette Viaduct, I think was where the terminus was. There weren't as many stations as this. I think there were 4 stations along the route. There was one up here at Pier... might have been Pier 39. It might have been a different pier. And then there was another one... this was definitely one at West Bank. And then I think there was another one sort of around... oh, my mouse just disconnected. Around here somewhere at Riverside Pier. And then there was one at Lafayette Viaduct. I've got that really annoying cursor thing now as well. Look at that. Because my mouse my PC does some really weird things with things disconnecting. I think I'm going to have to pop open the case and look at the motherboard at some point, because things keep disconnecting. So apologies for the crappy mouse. Apologies as well if you're watching on mobile and you can't see everything I'm doing. I was considering increasing the UI scale, but then I thought, why? Because it doesn't actually change anything here. I suppose I could zoom in a bit further. That might help. So yeah, this used to be a terminus station, Lafayette Viaduct. And I think Lafayette Viaduct used to be where the Lakeside station now is. It used to be a little bit further up. And I believe, is it that one? Actually, it might have been Lafayette Lakeside was the terminus. I can't remember now. But it definitely didn't extend southwards. And it worked okay. I used conditional orders to run trains on it, and it didn't always work reliably. So again, it was a suggestion to turn it into a light rail system instead. So that became the first branch of the Hatfield Light Railway. And originally, it ran from... and again, I'm testing my memory here. I believe initially it ran from Layhill, which is up here, down to... so there were 3 branches, I think. And I think Redstone was one of them. But it was this top branch. So all trains came through this central core heading north-south. And one branch went up to Layhill. And the other branch... yeah, the other branch went out to Redstone. And I think the southern branch was the one that went to... it's like some weird memory test I'm doing right now. I believe it came down this way and actually went to Kenville. I think that was right. Kenville might have... the extension might have come later. Actually, didn't it terminate just at Shoreham Junction? I think it did. And then this became a through station to Shoreham Central and then further on. Yeah, I think that's right. I think this used to be the terminus and then it got extended. But as you can see now, it's quite an extensive network. So 2 services start and end at Redstone Interchange, which is why we've got 3 platforms here. One, when we reach Cement Cross, which is not that one at all, over here. When we reach Cement Cross, one runs north, which is the original HLR, one of the original HLR branches. Joins up with the central core here, just south of Halliday Circus. Runs through the central core here. And then I think it turns west here and heads down and terminates at Slenston. Which is, oh god, I always get lost. Over here, there we are. I believe that to be correct. So it goes west here as well. And then goes up and terminates at Slenston. I believe that to be the case. In fact, why am I guessing? I could just tell you. Yeah, so conditional orders is something I used to use a lot. And it's something I've thought about bringing back. But I have no idea whether it's going to be a good idea or not. So yeah, the branches we've got are is that Slenston? Oh yeah, Slenston to GSG. So you'll see GSG actually has 3 platforms. That's GSG's platforms here. This one down here. And this underground station is not GSG. This is GSG's underground station. This is Halliday Circus, which is a much bigger station, which will be used in the future for more terminating. So, oh god, look at the... again, I'll come back to why this is annoying and what I would want to do to fix this. So yeah, one terminates at GSG from Slenston. The next one runs from Redstone Interchange to Guard City St. Elizabeth, which is one of the newer terminus stations over here, and has very nice dedicated platforms, very much inspired by Stratford on the Docklands Light Railway, and also Stratford International, in fact, on the Docklands Light Railway, the two Stratfords. The third is Kenville Airport to Guard City St Elizabeth. So as you might have seen down here, there's a little fork in the road. So the Redstone train, I'll show you that one in a minute, because that actually uses what used to be the Transrapid route. And Kenville you've already seen. It's where one of the depots for the HLR is. It's also where one of the it's where the mail sorting depot is. So you saw it last episode. Then we've got Kenville Airport to Leyhill, which is up in the northeast of the map of the city. Up here, which is, again, it looks like a small station, but it's a major interchange because it links the Underground, which is on the eastern side here. Then you've got the Capital Line, which is in the centre, and then you've got the HLR on the west. Now, the HLR could potentially expand northwards in the future. It's something George has suggested, actually expanding it either to Plintbridge Parkway, which is here, or maybe even connecting up some of the other communities around here that haven't been connected. If you can hear that noise outside my window, by the way, my gardener is here today, which I know sounds so middle class. But, yeah, in case you can hear that, I apologise in advance. And then, yeah, finally, the final branch we've got is Redstone to Shoreham Central. So if I head back over here, this is Shoreham Junction, which connects to this major part of the station here. And then this is Shoreham Central. For those of you who think that some of my stations are a little too close together, just have a look at the DLR around the Canary Wharf area. And then we'll have a little chat then about whether my platforms are a little too close together or not. They are inspired by the DLR. The DLR was the inspiration for the HLR. And I can't take credit for it. It was a viewer suggestion. I like the idea. I jumped on board and started building the tracks and everything. And I'm very, very glad I did, because it's a very awesome... Originally, the plan was to have heavy rail, like we've got here, and then overground, and then an underground system. So to have a light rail system as well is awesome, and it complements everything else very, very nicely. As I said, if I close this, the Transrapid used to run through the centre of the city, so that currently terminates over here at GSJ, and I say currently, it pretty much permanently will terminate at GSJ here. And as I said, GSJ was the first station I ever built on this map. We'll come back to that history in a bit. You can see where the tracks used to come in to the city. It's been rerouted slightly since. But where Cement Cross is now, at a slightly buried level, the tracks used to come through here. Then they lifted up, and then there was a station here, I think. I'm trying to remember how it... because I remember when I was like rebuilding all of this, I was thinking, is it going to look like it's been crowbarred in, or is it going to look quite natural? And the fact that I now can't see where it used to be suggests that it's quite natural, really. I believe around here, this river I don't think existed at the time. That's why it fitted in. And we used to have through platforms that are now terminus platforms, and everything got moved and rebuilt and all that good stuff. And yeah, the line used to continue down through here, but this is now the HLR branch. This is the... these used to have names as well, but I can't remember what they are. So we've got Guard Island Station, which was brand new as part of the project. And then we've got Guard Lake Station, which connects up with the docks here. The airport, which was a really bad idea, and I am going to scrap that because it just doesn't work. There's always a vehicle stuck in the hangar. And again, this comes back to... I'm going to talk a lot later on about things I don't like about this map and things I would change in a heartbeat if I could. Mainly to see if there's anyone in the chat who can help me come up with ideas for that. But this is Guard Lake Station. As you can see, it's quite a major station. It's the centre rail hub of the city, so trains running north-south on the Guard City Express and Guard City Connect franchises. And then also the east-west with the HLR. I have contemplated many, many times in the past building another station on this side of the site, connecting it to Guard Lake and having some kind of cross-rail network running across the city. But I just don't know how feasible that would be. Because the idea of that would be it would replace some, if not all, of the more suburban Great Western services. And I think the overground here would continue in a straight line and Florentine Way would become a Crossrail station. It wouldn't be called Crossrail, but I'm just using that as an example. It would be deeper underground, and then from here it would tunnel under, somehow cross the underground here, and then it would tunnel under again, and then I've got to try and navigate it this way to get it to go through Guard Lake. And not all roads lead to Guard Lake is the lesson I need to learn from that. So yeah, GSJ. Before I get into that, I think there are some other questions about Guard City. So yeah, there's another question. Okay, let's talk about GSJ first, and then we'll come back to this question, because it's actually a very good question, and it's to do with the history of not just this map, but previous maps as well. So this is the terminus, the Guard City terminus of the Guard City Great Eastern Main Line, or the Great Eastern Main Line to its friends. How many platforms is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is technically an 11th platform, but we don't count it because it's for the overground only. More on that in a second. So it's a 10 platform station. It's built using the Japanese platforms, new GRF. Originally it wasn't. It was built using the Dutch platforms. But I remember on a previous map, in fact the previous map, we had this really nice lakeside station built using the Japanese platforms, which was that map's version of Guard City St. George. So when it came time to building it here, I thought, why not make a nice little homage and have it be the same. Really glad I chose to do that, actually, because I love this station. It's one of my favourite stations in Guard City, the way that everything just about squeezes in. So we've got underground platforms here at the northern end of the site. Chris Russell, hello. Thank you very much. Sorry you can't stick around, but fear not, this will be a video. It'll be uploaded tomorrow evening, around the same time, actually. I try and keep so after the video finishes streaming, I try and keep it for 24 hours, so you always know to come back at the same time the next day, and that's when the video will be live. It gives it a chance to process and things like that, and there's a few other streamer rules that I can't really talk about publicly, but it's all explained. Don't worry, there's all a reason behind it. But yeah, thanks for dropping in. Thank you for the congratulations as well, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. What was I... Oh yes, we've got the underground platforms at the northern end of the site here. There's two sets of platforms. One on the Circle Line, which goes via... Is that Portston Road? No, it's Anderson Street. Portston... Where is Portston Road? That's down this way, isn't it? It's that one. Yes. Ah, see, the memory's kicking in again. And then we got the tram stops, the bus stops, and the cargo stops. Now, these cargo stops, they've sat here pretty much since day one and haven't been used. But those of you who remember last week's episode, we did the mail sorting centres, and that's what this is for now. These stops were always designed for this mail rail system that I was going to bring in and never did. But that is going to happen now, I can assure you. So we will be coming back to that. So after the road platforms here, we've then got the main city station itself, which is all these platforms here. This was also... It was inspired by a few different stations. Liverpool Street was one of them, but the main one for me was Charing Cross and Cannon Street. They sit right on the edge of the Thames, and in this case, there's no bridge that goes over the water. The main line curves away from the water here. But I always liked Charing Cross, especially. Actually, was it? No, Cannon Street, I think it was. The one that had the really nice looking office building on top and not the concrete monstrosity. Which I don't think either of them are there anymore, which is kind of sad. But I always liked looking at that across the river whenever I was on South Bank. So when it came time to build a station on the river's edge, or the lakeside in this case, I wanted to do that. Now the station used to have only 7 platforms, I think it was. And then 2 more were added on this side initially. Oh, hang on. Yeah, 2 more were added on this side initially. And then an extra one was added on this side when we started running more express trains in and out of the station. And then eventually this last platform here on the western edge, which literally encroaches on the water, that was built for the Overground project, which was a few months ago now. But that uses this platform. It also, as you can see by this train here, if I go transparent, you can see it, uses, in fact, these 5 platforms are all electrified third rail, but it's mainly this westernmost one that's used for the Overground. But again, there's timetabling issues and all sorts of things that are making it a little bit trickier to actually do. But I have got plans. I've got lots of plans. Just need maybe some help to actually execute those plans. So after GSJ was built, There was a couple of other things that changed. The lines coming in and out of here were originally just 2 tracks, one in each direction. And it was during the Realism Initiative that I started creating these sort of passing loops. Now, in this case, the express lines could have ended here. I didn't have to add this second lot, and I can technically convert it back now with realistic braking. That shouldn't be an issue. But one of the reasons I ended up with more of these passing places was for speed limit reasons. And I must admit, now that realistic braking is a thing, and controlling speed limits from signals is a thing, I'm really glad that I didn't convert the entire network over to the Realism Initiative, because that would have killed me. The Realism Initiative, for those of you that don't know, was a project that I did at the end of the Majeffries network and the beginnings of the M4J network, where I wanted to use realistic speed limits coming in and out of terminus stations, because right now trains enter and exit this terminus at 15 miles an hour, and I think it's 10 miles an hour actually in the platform itself. That was partially inspired by the speed limits at Moorgate. After the Moorgate crash, a 10 mile per hour speed limit was introduced. Most terminus stations in London, I believe the speed limit is 20 miles an hour going in and out of the terminus platforms. But I like 10 because it just feels better for me. So instead of having a train roaring into here at 75 miles per hour, they now come in and out at a more realistic speed limit. Not everyone does that. That's fine. But for me, here, I wanted to do that. So that's what the Realism Initiative was. It was going around and speed limiting the entirety of the M4J network. And if I open the map right now and you see how big, that's not the map, Mark, and you see how big this network is, you can see why this was a headache. This is the network. Where we are right now is about here. This is the whole network. You can also see huge unexplored territory still, specifically in this central section. I don't know why I can't speak today. I think it's just my natural stutter has come out to play. I've also realised I've just put the map behind the chat, so most of you probably couldn't even see it anyway. There we are. So yeah, this central section, again, we're going to talk about future ideas later on in the stream. I've got a ton for this central section here. And there's a lot of developments, shall we say, that I've seen for OpenTTD over the last couple of weeks that are making me very, very excited about future episodes. Very, very excited indeed. So yeah, the Realism Initiative hit this place hard. I did an entire episode basically where I ripped out a lot of houses and roads along the route here. This station here, Mason Way, this used to be a small 3-tile station that was only called at by one service that goes from here down to Reningbury, which is the terminus station. I'll show you probably later on. If not, feel free to download the map. You can find it for yourself. With the rebuild, it is actually still a major... what I wanted to do was have trains not go through Mason Way on their way to and from the station if they weren't directly stopping there. But because of the way the routing worked, I think they do actually still use it, and this central track is not used. But that will change. I will change that. And then this was all 2-track, and then Brendington Indigo Junction, which was actually the inspiration for this set of loops coming out this far. Again, this set of tunnels here could be 2-track, not 3. But I think at this point, if they're all going to be 3-track, they might... sorry, if this one's going to be 3-track, and this one down here is going to be 3-track, they might as well all be 3-track. It's fine. Bi-directional, apart from, I think the left-hand track is one-way only, so the other 2 are bi-directional. I always have one track that is exit only, so stations don't get clogged, because you end up with this big, well, not even bottleneck, it's just a gridlock at that point, and it's really a huge headache to have to undo everything. So yeah, that was GSJ. Before I get into GSG, which is the second station I ever built, and that one, actually I might come to GSG last, surely purely because of the size. I'm going to talk about GSP next, because there's a question directly related to GSP and GSMI. So this is Guard City St. Peter, and this is Guard City St. Michael. Despite the fact they are right next to each other, they are in fact considered 2 separate stations. This is inspired by just how close King's Cross and St. Pancras are to one another. If you've never been to King's Cross or St. Pancras, you literally walk out the door of one, and then 50 yards over the road is the other. I never knew how close they were when I was a kid. I used to hear about this magical, mysterious world of St. Pancras, and there was only one day where we were trying to get a train home and King's Cross was closed, and my dad said, let's go to St. Pancras and we'll get a train to St. Albans. And I was like, oh God, how long's that gonna take? And we just walked over the road and we were in St. Pancras. And I was like, oh. And this was during the rebuild for Eurostar, so it was a really ugly looking building site, but it was pretty cool to actually finally experience St Pancras. And then as it happened, my brother went to uni down in Canterbury, so I used to go through St Pancras quite a lot on my way to visit him. Get on the Javelin through High Speed 1. I love the fat High Speed 1s at St Pancras now. There was nothing wrong with Waterloo. I used to enjoy going to Waterloo to get the Eurostar, but I just love the fact it's at St Pancras now. It's so cool. So originally in the previous map, these two were the same station. It was called St Peter / St Michael, but they were one station. And this is where this question comes in. So this is another question, I believe, from Master Trams, which is, what happened to Guard City Exchange? When GSP was first built, it wasn't a terminus, rather a through station that continued onto a station named Guard City Exchange. So here we've got an example of map mistaking, because this is the third iteration of the map where there is no Guard City Exchange, but the second map that I built, which had St. Peter and St. Michael in the same locations, did have a Guard City Exchange. The difference is these two were actually located slightly further south, and there was a station kind of where this would be here. Now, this isn't the same map seed, so this lake didn't exist, for example. But it would have been around this area, and these two stations would have been further west, because there was a really long tunnel that connected the two. But Guard City Exchange evolved into Guard Lake. So the trains that used to terminate, actually it would have been, so imagine this is down here. Let me zoom in a bit more. It's down here. But I'll show you what it was like here. So there was a station, I think it was like this side, that was terminus platforms, and that was for a high-speed network, and it was also for, I think there was a commuter belt that came out of it as well. And then we had the north-south centre rail that connected GSG to GSMA, and then Guard City Central was the central station. But when it came time to build this map, I realised there was this island in the middle of the lake, and I thought, why don't we turn that into a town, call it Guard Lake, and then we'll have that be the central hub for Centre Rail. So that's how that came about. So I miss Guard City Exchange in many ways, but there's lots about the previous map that I didn't like, and I really wanted to change it when we did a new map. So that's where this came from. This feels a lot more realistic than the previous incarnation of the map. I much prefer this version as well. I think, to be fair, a lot of you guys prefer this version too. But I do miss it. That doesn't mean I don't miss it. I think it was a really awesome network that we built there. And that's why it's available to download. So I think, you know, I might as well share it with you guys still. You guys might enjoy playing on it even if I don't anymore. So GSP is the Guard City terminus for the Great Western franchise, which is currently owned by George. Guard City Western Railway is the name of the franchise, but Guard City Great Western is the name of the so hang on, the company operating the network, and the name on the side of the trains is Guard City Western Railway, but the franchise name is Guard City Great Western. That's the difference. So you might hear me refer to it as the Guard City Great Western. That's not saying George has lost the franchise, it's just me using its franchise name rather than the operator's name, if that makes sense. So again, this is one that it started off as quite a small station and slowly grew over the years. I think the original station ended at this platform here. It might have extended a bit further south, actually, thinking about it. Maybe this platform here. This last long one before it chops down. So these three didn't exist. And on the northern side, I think this long platform did exist, but it was one further south. The bus station on the roof has always existed, but I think that might get changed in the future because I'm planning on building some new bus stations elsewhere. In fact, you can kind of see where the bus stations are outside GSP. Again, like GSJ, it's got a tram hub, it's got cargo hub, it's actually got a dock here as well. It's a little bit far away, but you can imagine on a tube map this would have a dotted line between the two. There's an underground platforms over here, and there's also an overground station, which, again, this would technically be a connector blob and a dotted line on a tube map, because this is part of GSP, but this is in no way the same station. Much like if you went to Paddington, you've got the two circle line platforms. One's Parade Street, the other one I can never remember the name of, but it's the one that's actually connected to Paddington proper. They are two separate stations, believe it or not. They both say Paddington. You can interchange with trains at both, but there's one where you have to exit the gate line and there's one where you don't. And that's basically what this is. This is an out-of-station interchange. So it is still called St. Peter because I wanted to do that so passengers could connect. But imagine these are in fact two separate stations. And to get from one to the other, you'd have to walk down a pathway alongside here and then into the station building that way. This used to really bother me, the fact that this was so far away from the main station. But when you think about it like that, the rationale for me was when the new overground stations were announced to connect with Old Oak Common, and neither of them actually connect directly to Old Oak Common. They're both 5-10 minute walks away. And that's when it started to hit me like, okay, this is something that can exist in the real world. And since then, I've been a lot more relaxed about it, believe me. You make your own rules sometimes as well. You've got to factor that in too. So the overground platforms here, it used to be a pair of platforms. You can see where the original alignment was and still is. But this central road here used to be the second platform. This was altered when the overground project was built, mainly so that trains running to and from the depot between GST, GSJ and the depot could run through this station, and it meant trains had a longer stopping chance at the station itself. That's the reason it exists like this now. There's a couple of other stations that have been rebuilt the same way, including this one up here, which is Little Biddingbury East. This is actually a 3-platform station. Trains can use any of the 3 platforms, but it's the same thing. It just means there's normally a platform free, as this train is about to demonstrate, because I believe you are... yeah, you're heading back to the depot, which is perfect. So this train here is occupying this platform, so this one can use the central road and bypass it, and it just means there's less queuing. I tried to look to see where trains were bunching up, and then I would rebuild those stations. So before I show you the next station, I'm going to go to another question. Now, this isn't a question to do with Guard City, but this is a question to do with how I do my service classifications. So let's choose an example. I'm going to increase my... I always do settings when I'm in game options. I'm going to increase my... I might go quad size just so those on mobile can see. Oh, wow, that's huge. My interface size here. So this train here, you see it's got this classification number 1C00. Now imagine, take out those zeros, replace them with X's, because that's the new system I use. So 1CXX, and then it's got its origin station, which is Guard City St. Michael, and then its first destination station, which in this case is Plindon Junction. So my service naming system works, and I need to get... the Wikipedia page up again, because I want to give you the correct information. So these are what's known as train reporting numbers. You will see this a lot. If you download things like real-time trains, you will see this kind of thing a lot. So every service in the UK that runs on the rail, even if it's the Overground, even if it's Eurostar, I think the only ones off the top of my head that don't, but this is probably because they use a different system, are London Underground and Docklands Light Railway. And then you've got obviously things like the Tyne and Wear Metro and Metrolink and things like that as well. But any national rail service, and we do include the Eurostar with that, because the Eurostar is a slight anomaly, but it does still use the same system, at least in the UK. They have what's called a train reporting number, and that's mainly so that signallers, station dispatchers, any rail staff member knows where that train is supposed to go. In the past, there were various ways of denoting where a train was meant to go. And then we stuck with this system, which I believe was invented by the Southern Railway. Yeah, the font size is the issue. I'm going to revert this back because it's making my eyes hurt. But yeah, the font size, I don't know if it's possible to actually increase. Is there a thing? Actually, there might be. So we've got interface size. Font size. Ha! Alright, let's change that to quad. Oh my god. Okay. Right, there we go. So we've got 1MXX. I'm just going to leave that in the center of the screen while I talk before I revert. Oh my, look what it's done to this as well. Jesus. What was I saying? So yeah, the Southern Railway invented the head code system. So if you ever go to a preserved railway that uses Southern Rail stock, you will see they put different discs in different formations on the front of the locomotive. And that was purely for signallers, so that the signaller could see what type of train it was and where it was going, and also what route it was taking, because there were multiple ways to get from A to B. And there still are in the UK. So train reporting numbers is kind of the sequel to that. And there are different components on that. So in current day terminology, you've got 1 to 9 and then 0. These are the hang on, let me get the correct ones. So as of December 2017, there are 10 classes, 1 to 9 and then the number 0. And the way they work is, number 1 is express passenger train, nominated postal or parcels train, breakdown or overhead line equipment train going to clear the line, traction unit going to assist a failed train, or going to clear a snowplow going to clear a line. So basically anything that needs to get somewhere in a hurry will be given the number 1. And that means anyone who is routing that train knows that this is a high priority service. So in this case, this is an express train. It runs between Guard City St. Michael and Kingdom-Hatton Airport Parkway. And it has the classification 1, which means it is an express train. Next, you've got number 2, which is an ordinary passenger train or an officer's special train. So every other domestic stopping train or even semi-fast train in the UK will have a number 2 in front of it. I'm sure there are exceptions. There are a couple already that I can think of actually, which I'll talk about in a second. But pretty much any train, so like let's say Euston to Milton Keynes Central on the West Coast Main Line, will have the train reporting number that starts with the number 2. Number 3 is a freight train if specially authorised, a parcels train, autumn railhead treatment train, empty coaching stock train if specially authorised. So I'm pretty sure most empty coaching stock trains would be a number 3. It says it's specially authorised, but there's no other one that mentions empty coaching stock. So maybe that's a number 3, maybe that's a number 1. I don't know. That's kind of like special freight trains. So on the network here, I think number 3s I have for parcels trains, because yeah, 3 is also for parcels trains. Then we've got number 4, which is a freight train. Oh, number 5 is empty coaching stock. I'm an idiot. Number 4 is freight train that can run up to 75 miles per hour. Pretty self-explanatory. Number 5 is empty coaching stock train, so that will be an ECS movement. I always used to wonder what ECS stood for. I never once in my mind thought maybe it means empty coaching stock. I don't know what's wrong with me, but there we go. Number 6 is a freight train that can run up to 60 miles per hour. Again, pretty self-explanatory. Number 7 is a freight train that can run up to 45 miles per hour. Number 8 is a freight train that can run up to 35 miles per hour. You don't really see those very often these days. Maybe a like a legacy freight movement or something like that, or a wide load maybe, where they have to be a bit careful. Number 9 is... Okay, so number 9 is the anomaly. Class 373s and 374s, which are the Eurostar units. Also, London Overground, and I believe some Thameslink services as well will use the number 9. It's not described here. It says Class 373 train, other passenger train if specially authorised. I kind of call this the universal number. So any service that will use multiple routes along its journey, for example, tends to have the number 9. Or runs on their own segregated system. So you've got... London Overground, for example, use the number 9. And as I said, I believe Thameslink do, and the 373 and 374 Eurostar units use the number 9. So as they're leaving and arriving at St Pancras, they'll have the train reporting number that begins with the number 9. And then 0 is light locomotive or locomotives. Again, that's pretty self-explanatory. It used to be a lot more complicated back in the day. So like, for example, number 6, before privatisation, number 6 was an express freight, livestock, perishable or ballast train with 20% vacuum braked vehicles piped to the engine. So basically a fifth of its vehicles had to be vacuum braked. Number 5 was pretty much the same, but with no less than 50% vacuum braked. So I like the new system with speed limits, because I think that's a lot easier, because it becomes a priority system at this point. 1 is more urgent than 4, for example. 4 is more urgent than 7. It makes more sense. Although on that logic, an empty coaching stock train would yield to a freight train, which I suppose if it's running at 75 miles per hour, it's probably perishables and things like that, which would make it kind of important. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to revert this font size. Actually, am I going to be able to see? Yeah, there. Auto detect, please. Phew. Okay, we're back. So those are the first numbers. Then the second character is a letter. Now in my network, ignore everything I do. There's no logic behind it. It will get reworked. But in real life, destination letters as the second character. So British Rail used to be split into regions. Each region had a letter that represented it. So for long distance trains, the country is split up into areas based upon the old British Rail regions. Each one is assigned a letter as follows. E is the eastern region. So out of Liverpool Street, for example, that's E. L is Anglia. That's also out of Liverpool Street. Actually, no, E, eastern. That must be like Kent and Essex and places like that. So Tilbury, Southend. I want to say Margate, maybe. Does that count as south or is that southeastern? I don't know. I guess that's south. Sorry, eastern. L is Anglia. M is Midland. O is southern. S is Scotland. And V is western. And you can already see we were having this conversation on the Discord about regions under this new system that's coming in. And I already have a problem with the fact that the entirety of Scotland was represented by a single letter, because that doesn't really tell you still where that train is going. It just tells you it's going somewhere north of the border. Same with Wales. Wales is covered by Western. Wales is not a small place, by the way, and yet it's covered by a region. And yet Anglia, which is about the size of Wales, has its own region. I think Wales should be separate from Western, but that's by the by. Each region also had its own designations. Now this is where it gets really complicated, because A in the Midland region would mean London Euston or London Marylebone, but A on the Western region would just mean London, so Paddington or I think also Marylebone in fact. Scotland, A is Aberdeen, B is Edinburgh, G is the Fife Circle, and yeah, Fife Circle. I was about to say and Glasgow, but it doesn't mention that. The Fife Circle via Dunfermline and Longannet Power Station. H is Inverness, because we do things so counteractively here. We can't even use I for Inverness. I has to be for Cathcart Inner or Outer Circle, which is also what the letter O represents. Then we got R, which is an express service between Glasgow, Queen Street and Edinburgh. T, Glasgow, trains from the north heading to Glasgow. And then Y is the West Highlands. But back to the Midland, A is London Euston or Marylebone. D is North Wales. G is Birmingham. H is Manchester. C is London St Pancras via Derby. D is London St Pancras via Nottingham. F is Liverpool. And C is the Cumbrian coast and Windermere. It's an absolute boggler how they didn't get more trains lost using these systems, particularly when it became BR. And it was all under one roof. That must have been really confusing having to sort through, especially when you've got things like, in fact I think there is a section that refers to cross-country services. Yeah. So for example, a cross-country service from Bath Spa to Glasgow Central is an express passenger service, so it is a class 1 train. It's going from the Western to the Scottish region, so it's given the letter S. For its destination. It's one of the first... so we'll talk about the last two digits in a second. I believe if it was on its reverse journey from Glasgow to Bath, it would use... Bath's not on here, actually. So I can't answer that question. I would assume it would use... maybe the letter... I don't know. There's none that say. Maybe M, actually, on the way back. I genuinely don't know. Genuinely not a clue. But yeah, it gets a little bit complicated. And I could have used that system. Leopolis. Leopolis. I'm probably butchering your pronunciation. But welcome to the stream. Don't worry about missing the beginning. It will be a video tomorrow, so you'll be able to watch it on playback. We are... wow, we're 47 minutes in. I should probably get a move on if I want to finish this within 2 hours. But yeah, the last two digits on a train reporting number purely state which service of the day that train is. So I'm not saying that they always start at 1, but I believe it's odd numbers in one direction and even numbers coming back. So let's say 01. So 1M01 on the Midland region. No, let's not use M. Let's say, right, I've got the Midland region in front of me here. So let's say 1H01 would be the London Euston to Manchester service. And then once that train reaches Manchester, it will become the 1A03. No, 04, let's say, which would be the return. So I think the odds and evens are for different directions, and that also tells you which direction the train's travelling in. Because if you just had 1A01 and then 1A02, both heading in the same direction, you might not necessarily keep track of what's going where and things like that. I personally think it's a very archaic system. I think there may or may not be better ways, particularly in modern day technology. There's probably better ways of classifying trains, especially as you have got more trains now like cross country that start in Aberdeen and finish in Penzance. They pass through 3, 4, 5 different regions along the route, but I believe the train reporting number remains the same throughout, which then leads to that anomaly of if you're up in Aberdeen and you're heading down towards, I'm trying to see if there is a Penzance. Yeah, C is Penzance on the western region, but C in Scotland, actually there isn't a C in Scotland, so maybe that does work. Maybe that was deliberately designed that way. But yeah, I didn't like that system, but I also don't like my system. So I like the idea of having trains be classified, particularly for grouping. So if I go in the train groups again, you'll see that every service pretty much has a classification, which I know you won't be able to see if you're on smaller screens right now, but trust me, they're here. If I open this up, you see just how many train groups we've got. And then if I hit this one, you'll see exactly how many train groups operate currently on the M4J network. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, more to come. They've all been classified. 1s, 2s, there's a few 3s, there's some 9s at the bottom here for cross country and cross region. There's also some 9s for Guard City Overground. The only ones that don't have this are... Actually, even the Hatfield Light Railway has them, which it doesn't need. I might remove those and just have the destination and origin. Oh, yeah, the Underground. Guard City Underground doesn't have them either. And that's pretty much it. All the others do have them. I want to redo the system because basically as I'm adding them to the service schedule, the first one's A, the second one's B, the third one's C. That in no way determines where that train is going. It's just the order in which I put them on the service sheet. So I'm going to have a chat with some people, probably on the Discord over the next few weeks, about how we're actually going to split this network up into regions and then how each classification will work according to those regions. I want to properly gun-ho for realism now and actually get this working. Question from the chat from Gert. Did I ever consider using a face cam? Yes, if you go back and watch some of my old streams, Space Engineers streams, 7 Days to Die, things like that, I used a face cam. The reason I stopped was because the drivers that operated my face cam stopped working and I just never bothered getting a new one. I decided didn't need one. My face shouldn't really be the star of the channel for lots of different reasons, let's be honest. It was never something that was requested. It was something that was asked, but it was never really requested. So I just felt like it was something that wasn't necessary, really. In the future, I might get my face out a little bit more. Plus, it involved redesigning a lot of my overlays for my streams, which I really didn't want to do. I can be a lazy sod when I want to be. And that's pretty much the reason why. But yeah, it's not off the table. I might bring one back in the future. Good question, though. Good question. So, yeah, before we answer the next question, hopefully that answered that question. It was a bit long-winded. I apologise for that. But, yeah, I want to talk about GSMI as the next station. So, this is the hub of the Western Reaches North and South. Now, originally it was just the Western Reaches North, and it wasn't called the Western Reaches North. It was just called the Western Reaches. Half of the express platforms here didn't exist. Half of the slow platforms in the north didn't exist, particularly these two here, because that was part of the Transrapid. And actually you can kind of still make out here where the station was. These stations on the HLR, I believe, are one tile north of where the Transrapid used to run, and the platforms were here. And then from here it went across the underground, then dived underground itself, and then I think here it switched across, and then it followed the alignment, something like that. This station's a lot bigger than it used to be, though. This used to be quite a cute little station. You'll notice that we've got double-decker trains operating out of the station. We've got these units here. We've also got loco hauled stock. Very much European, very much in line for replacement. I want to use double-decker stock on this line, because this was built to, the backstory of this line was, it's like the Great Central Railway. It was built to European loading gauges, which meant in theory it could use double-decker container trains and double-decker carriages, and slightly wider carriages as well. It was also built with tilting technology in mind, which is how we're using the APTs here, the Advanced Passenger Trains to you and I, which were prototyped in the 70s, re-prototyped in the 80s, and then scrapped in the late 80s. Again, crimes against technology in my opinion, but what do I know? I wasn't even born then. There is still an example of the APT at the Railway Museum in Crewe, for those of you who want to check it out. I was trying to remember the name of the museum. I think it's just called the Railway Centre, isn't it? Something like that. It's right next to Crewe Station, though. You can't miss it. But yeah, there are no double-decker carriages in the UK. There were the bullied experimental ones, but I would call them a 1+5 or 1.5 decker carriage, because they weren't true double-deckers. Yeah, they just weren't true double-deckers, let's be honest. A really weird staggered seating arrangement. Apparently the top floor compartments were really cramped and horrible. So I used European trains for this. I believe these are both Dutch, German, and maybe a bit of Austrian in here as well. I like them though. I really like this unit here, the fact that it's reversible. So this loco is on the back of the train right now, but when it leaves, it doesn't flip around like the UK trains do. This actually becomes the front. I really like that. I think there's a way to do that for BR trains, but it might take a lot of recoding, so I don't think it's anything that's going to be done anytime in the future. But yeah, this station used to just be the hub of one line, but you'll notice now there are two lines that come out of it. Western reaches north goes this way, Western reaches south goes this way. It's because I wanted to build a new line out of Guard City, and I'd bookmarked a route that I liked the look of, but I couldn't find where it would come into the city. Originally, I was going to build a station down here in Victoria and call it Guard City Saint something, but then that would involve having to rename Victoria. Or I could build a new district down here, but then it's a bit too far out of the centre of the city for me, even though GSE is just as far out. And in the end, GSE was built around that time and became the West Winds terminus, which we'll talk about later. If I don't finish talking about everything today, I might do a second video and just premiere it in a few weeks' time, just to talk about the rest of what's going on here, because there's so much to talk about. We're only really talking about Guard City today. The rest of the network, we might have to, unless someone specifically requests something, the rest of the network will be done some other time, because there's so much to talk about and there's no time to do it. But yeah, eventually I kind of noticed this like greenbelt land here, because the route was going to follow the southern side of the GWR and come in where the Cardtown sorting depot is and then terminate down here. But then after I built GSE, I didn't want to build two new stations one after the other. So then I realised I could actually connect this in, because this was always a curve on the western reaches. And I could just connect this in, slightly expand the station, and then you've got northern platforms here for slow trains and southern platforms here for fast trains. And surprisingly, it works really, really well. I'm very, very happy with the outcome. This junction needs a bit of rejigging by the looks of things, but that's not too hard to do, I don't think. It's a very busy station. I think we've got lots of train movements happening. Again, this might be a timetabling issue, though, so I'm not going to get too excited about that. GSMI is slightly different to GSP. There's no connection to the overground, but there is a connection to the HLR. There's also a connection to the underground here via these platforms, which are far more appropriately placed than the ones at GSP and even the ones at GSJ. This is my favourite station in terms of its outside layout. This kind of street pattern here I'm a big, big fan of. The bus stops, the trams, it's all perfect. And in fact, this section here was inspired by Amsterdam Central and the way that the tram stops are integrated into the plaza outside. The only sad thing is I couldn't bury the underground platforms properly underground. Otherwise, these tram stops would be a lot closer to the station building. This is also, I believe, the busiest bus station in Guard City right now as well, although that might belong to GSG, thinking about it. That probably belongs to GSG. I think more routes actually come out of GSG. So that's pretty much it for GSMI. As I said, there were plenty of expansions in the future. This used to be a 4-tile wide gap that went down here. That was also changed when Florentine Way was built, because this overground line didn't used to exist. It used to just continue around as part of a circle. We have 2 circles in Guard City. We've got the inner circle and the outer circle. But yeah, after many attempts to get this station to work in its original size, I decided to just bite the bullet and increase the size. And you can kind of see that it was worth doing. Maybe not so much for the slower services, but we haven't got many of those running still. But for the faster services, this station is pretty much at capacity now. There's no room for any more services unless we started combining services together, which, you know, we could do, maybe. We'll see. The next station then I want to show you, it's not actually a terminus station, but it's Slenston over here. This station is very, very unique. Ignore the HLR, this came later. Originally it was just this set of platforms here. Actually no, I tell a lie. It was this set of platforms here on the overground. And then when I built the Western Reaches, there was a set of platforms, I think they just ran here. And then over time that moved over here so that these bypass tracks could be put in. And to be honest, these will have a use in the future, but at the time I built them, I've no idea why I built them, because every train stopped at Slenston, and I believe still do. So this was kind of pointless, but there is a freight access here now to the Overground Loop, which will be used by mail trains. And I think food and goods will also use this as well, accessing Guard City North Freight Terminal and Guard City South. So this became necessary, but right now it's not. You can see a train here kindly demonstrating that all trains stop at Slenston. So these again are technically 2 separate stations that just happen to be connected in-game for passenger transfers. This would be an out-of-station interchange. The reason I wanted to show this to you is because this is an example of a major interchange that in no way looks like a major interchange. This is like my Willesden Junction. We've got the high level platforms here on the Western Reaches North. We've got the low level platforms here on the... Is that mail? Ah. Okay, I might be able to get mail to appear on Cardtown Sorting Depot, which would be cool. But yeah, the lower platforms here on the Overground Loop, and then the HLR was added in the future when this little branch here, because originally both branches here went to GSE, but GSE was getting really clogged, so I decided to branch one off and have it come this way and terminate at Slenston. The reason it's Slenston to GSG as a route is because, I mean, they're basically... You can almost spit from one to the other. But it's not so much origin destination, it's all the communities that get linked up along the way. What was that? Victor Rosenfeld with the subscribe. Thank you very much. Much, much, much appreciated indeed. Top man. But again, Slenston is actually part of the Guard City Terminus group. So all the major termini in Guard City are obviously part of that group. But Slenston is also part of it. And not only that, it's actually got its own route number on the Guard City bus services. So that's something else I'll talk about a little bit later. Basically, Guard City, each major terminus in Guard City, the routes that operate out of that terminus have their own classification. So I can tell where a bus is going just from looking at the first number. It's kind of cool. That's kind of what I want the rail to be like as well. You can immediately look at a train and see where it's going, rather than just 1A and be like, well, what's that? I don't know. The problem with that is there's only 26 letters of the alphabet, and that's why I don't like that system, because I think there is a better way of doing it. Maybe doing it through numbers and letters. Like 1A might mean Guard City, 1B might mean Bar City. Who knows? Oh god, Bar City, that's a whole other... That might need its own video as well. So... Slenston, as I said, is a major interchange. Overground trains stop in the lower level platforms and dwell there for a little bit. 2 minutes, I think, instead of 1. And then the Western Reach is here. It's also got a heliport now, which will stay. Even if the one at Guard Lake gets bulldozed, this one will stay, because this one works quite well. It's another notification. Corns McGowan with the follow on Twitch as well. Thank you very, very much. Really impressive map and network. Thank you. Believe me, it's like, again, this is just Guard City. It gets way more complicated outside the city than this. Way more complicated. Also, Slenston's quite important because it's the location of the Overground Depot, which is down here, which is also incredibly full. And again, I think this is a timetabling issue that we've got going on. I've only got an hour left of this stream, so I really am going to have to get a lick on. So next up, we've got GSC here. This is quite a quick one, really. It's only a terminus for overground trains. This is kind of the inner city hub of overground trains. I think we got 3 services operating out of here right now. One that goes down to actually, I think we got 4 now. One that runs up to Bunhattan, which is the only northern line on the overground network. Technically you've got the DC lines to Flame as well, but I refer to those more as western, northwestern at least. And then I believe one of these goes out to Sinfing Way, which connects up with the Western Reaches further west. And then one that runs to Gronville East. No, Neffingberg Springs East, which connects up with the GWR further west of here as well. Again, there will be a route map, network map in the future on my website. Still ironing out some of the kinks with it. The anomaly, or the cool thing about this station, is it has the Paddington underground platform setup. So over here the branch lines split. The circle line continues on the eastern side, runs through St. Christopher Square and then to GSC. The western side here runs through Brook Way. In fact, there's a metro train, underground train coming out now that's about to show us. And then goes to GSC. This one continues up through GSE and I think it terminates at Flame. This one, as you can see, curves east and heads towards GSG, which is where we're going to be ending today, I think. Yeah, so this is an out-of-station interchange, really. You can imagine you'd have to walk through ticket barriers, through the main station. You would connect underground, I think, here, let's be honest. And then you'd have to go to this other set of platforms to catch a train from there. This station used to be at ground level. I did actually pop it up on a hill at some point during its lifetime. The reason I wanted to do that is because I wanted it to be, you're driving down these streets and at the end of the road you see the station looming in front of you. I think it looks really damn cool. I love the office building completely. Like, how do you even reach that without going through the station? I don't know. But yeah, big bus station outside. This is going to be the hub for buses in the northwest of the city. We have got GSE, which is further north. But for like this entire area, even going out through Manuel City and beyond, I think GSC is a really, really good hub for that because of the overground connections as well. So let's move on to GSE then, since I mentioned that. But before I talk about GSE, I'm going to have a look at the Q&A sheet again. So someone here, no one. That's the name. That's not me saying no one. How do I get daytimes into my game? Now, it's been a while since I did this, but if I go into settings here and type day. So you've got here show time in minutes rather than days. I've got that switched on, and then there's also a setting somewhere. Why can't I see it? Actually, no, that is it. Show time in minutes rather than days. So down here, this clock, I believe, is what that is. And then you have things like day length factor, which I've got currently set to 35. That caused more problems than it solved as well. And this ties into the departures patch, which is this. So you can see all departures. I think it's the latest 10, in fact, but you can increase it from a certain station. So out of Gloucester Main Line, which is this station here, these are the next 10 departures. Shows all their stopping stations, where they're going to, the group for the vehicle that's operating it, who the company is that's operating it. This will become important in the future when we start bringing patrons onto a server where this game will be moving to. Then you've got arrival time and departure time, and even here, if you can connect to any other modes of transport at the destination. So at Garthill, for example, that's somewhere you can also get on a bus. Really cool. I really love the departure board. It's such a cool thing. And then there's another question. Let's have a look. I mean, there's quite a few. There's loads that more chat-based and less vision-based. But let's talk about GSE for a second. So this is the second newest terminus in Guard City. It used to be the newest, but we built St. Bartholomew. God, how long ago was that now? Can't even remember. But that became the newest. Again, used to be a lot smaller than this. Was expanded over time. This platform here used to be the northern limit, and this platform here used to be the southern limit. But you can see where I've added additional platforms to the north and the south. No idea why I did that, because clearly I don't need them, but they exist. The HLR didn't used to come through here, neither did the underground, and also this bus station here is atrocious and will get rebuilt. I think I'll rebuild it on this southern side here, connecting to the HLR, just for connection reasons. Imagine in real life, you want to get off the bus and get straight on a train. This is probably the best end to do that at. This is the Guard City terminus of the West Winds line, which technically actually runs from Guard City St. George up to Sunnington in the northwest corner of the map. However, I wanted suburban services to go elsewhere, kind of like a Broad Street in London, and that's where the origins of this came from. So at Flayham Junction and at Drunnington and Tenfing Bridge on the West Winds line, trains branch off and go down a new set of tracks that terminate here. This is purely a suburban station. There are no express services that operate out of GSE. It is all commuter services, and I like that. I really do like that. The whole of the West Winds franchise needs a rethink, though. There are new branch lines that I want to build. There are new branch lines that have been built and not yet been populated, such as the ones that connect up to Honningville and beyond. There's plenty of work still needs to be done with all of this. And again, this is something on my to-do list for the near future. The HLR came in quite a long time after the station was built, as part of the Transrapid connection. When the Transrapid was gotten rid of, the line running east to west had to go somewhere. I decided to, once it ran through the centre of the city, because it had come from... oh, that's interesting. Yeah, you might have seen the sprite a little bit messed up there. That's part of the latest patch pack update. I don't know what that's all about. It's a graphics thing, so it's not too bad. But yeah, Redstone Interchanges over here. We run right through the centre of the city, and it had to go somewhere. And at the time, this part of the city was relatively underserved. So after coming through here, we turn north. And we come through here, we go through Genford South and Genford North, where we connect up with the Overground, and then we terminate up here at GSE. I just felt like it fitted. Again, a bit like Slenston, it reminds me a lot of... did I mean Slenston? Probably meant Slenston. This was based on Stratford International, the way that the DLR platforms curve round alongside the North London line and then just terminate in a cutting next to, in this case, Stratford International Station, but on here, GSE. I like it. It's a really cute station. Again, this didn't used to be underground. This used to actually be at ground level. I bulldozed the entirety of the town around it because I couldn't be bothered to rebuild the station. So I just bulldozed the town, raised the land around the station, and then built it all back again. The exception to that is St. Elizabeth itself, which was already on a hill. It's actually at the same level as the station here. But the rest of this was all level ground. And even over here, this was all level ground that's been raised up so that the tracks run underneath, and then it splits off into its relative branches. So the next station I'm going to show you is GST, which is this one here. GSC and GST weren't part of the previous map. Likewise, GSE and GSB weren't, but all the other stations were. They all had their own versions on the map. Yeah, GST. It's actually named after my brother. My brother's name's Tom. And I thought, I've got a GSMA down here, which we'll talk about in a bit. Might as well have a GST too. So, this is a kind of commuter station, I suppose. It's an overground station. A bit like GSC, but it has also got connections to the underground. And then it's got this unique section of bridge here that runs across to GSJ, which is for one overground service that runs from GSJ rather than GST. This is kind of the Cannon Street, so you can imagine still that GSJ is the Charing Cross. This is the Cannon Street. It's kind of the lesser known cousin of GSJ. Some people who've taken a train from GSJ every day of their lives might not even know that GST exists. This used to be a much simpler station. It was 2 tracks coming in and out. And I think it was 4 tracks, 2 of which were through tracks that then crossed over to GSJ. As you can see, that didn't last very long. The amount of trains we actually have terminating here, sometimes there can be a bit of a queue. I would love to be able to extend this station, but I can't because there's nowhere to extend it east or west. One thing I have considered doing, though, is extending the platforms out and actually having a bypass track through the middle that then stretches out. So kind of splitting the platforms in half, if that makes sense. And by that, you reduce one platform because it has to be a 3. Well, you still have 4 here, but it raises it from 4 to 7 is what I'm trying to say. And actually have these platforms cut back a little bit and then a junction built in. So this one would come across twice, this one would come across once, this one would stay as is, and then yeah, it would go across and through a central track in the middle of 3 other platforms. That might work. It might be a way of adding more capacity. This whole stretch here isn't necessary anymore. It used to be for waypoints and stuff, but it's not really necessary anymore. And as you can see, there's a huge menagerie of lines around here. This branch here, the western one, hasn't actually been finished yet. It stops here. That will happen in the future, I'm sure. The eastern one splits in half. Now, it was kind of the plan to have the western one also split and have this branch here connected to it. And I could still do that, technically. I could still do that. And then have these lines here be the eastern ones, and then these ones here also be the eastern ones. That might help with bottlenecking as well. I might have to see about that. But yeah, GST, it's got a nice bus station. It's also got a dock attached to it. It has its own bus network that operates out of here, but other than that, it's a pretty plain Jane station, really. There's nothing to, there's nothing too much to write home about. This is kind of like a Broad Street style station as well, but more of a Cannon Street, a bit of a Fenchurch Street going on as well. Nothing too exciting. It just does its job and does it pretty well. Let's move on then to GSMA. So this stands for Guard City St. Mark, hence the A. Guard City St. Michael is GSMI. So if you ever hear me talk about GSMA and GSMI, that's the difference between them. Now this station is very, very complex. The history of it is very, very in-depth as well. Basically, this platform here, the last platform that ends at the roof, everything east of here didn't exist. For a long, long time, did not exist. It was only this part of the station here. These platforms here also didn't exist. The line from here, in fact, used to cross under where this line is now, and then would join up somewhere over here. These platforms were added as part of the Overground project because I wanted to have another way to connect to GSMA. So I had to do a lot of bulldozing to get this line snaking through. I'm still not convinced it's the best way of doing it. There probably are far better ways of doing it, but it is what it is. We'll live with it and we'll move on from it. This station then, it's a very key hub on the network. It's part of the centre rail. So these 4 platforms here, plus the first 2 platforms under this roof, they're all centre rail station platforms. Sorry, the line here splits. So we've got the oh god, I nearly said the name of it then as well. That's the most annoying bit. I think it's like the Fort Flaham and Guard City Railway or something. I have an information sheet here that will tell me the answer I need to know if it loads. Come on. Google Sheets is really slow sometimes. Like, really slow. Let's get this working. Right. So it's not the Cadenbury Direct Line, because that goes through Shoreham Junction. Is it the Bunbourne and Central? No. I think it's the Charlwood Western and the Garden Western. Yeah, that looks right. The Charlton Western and the Garden Western that runs through here. So where this train's coming in from now, that's the fast line. And then the slow lines are either side of the fast line. So these middle 2 platforms are fast services that operate this way. The middle 2 platforms, which straddle the fast platforms, they're the slow services on this line. And then the outermost platforms are actually the Cadenbury Direct Line, which runs this way where this Turbo Networker is currently running. Turbo Star, very different train mark. Also not from the 90s. You should know your own timeline. For those of you that don't know, the timeline of the M4J network is late 90s. Well, not late 90s, sorry. Late 94, early 95. About the end of BR days, except in this case it's M4J transport days. And privatization is starting to appear, which is if someone supports me on Patreon, they can inherit a franchise, and that's how my privatization works. The junctions around here are impressive. The ones at GSG, some people say are more impressive, but I kind of like this one more. But yeah, all of these lines here, including the tracks here through New Rennington, didn't exist. This all came about on a sort of a whim project. I felt like I needed to build something else through here, and I wanted to have another main line that went through here. And instead of building a new terminus, because I could have connected it up to GST and expanded it, I decided why not just increase GSMA. Again, this station used to be low down with these platforms only being high up, but when I rebuilt the station, I lifted the eastern side of the station up as well to have it all on the same level. There's a lot of complex junctions, there's a lot of lines in and out. It's very, very complicated, let's put it that way, but I love it. I absolutely love it. This is one of my favourite stations to build, and it's certainly one of my favourite stations just to sit and watch trains coming and going. I love the fact that it's timetabled in as well, that a train will always be waiting here for a platform to be free. So this is the Guard City terminus of the Guard City Southern, Guard City Southwestern and Guard City Southeastern franchises. Southwestern operates on this. In fact, this is a Southwestern train here, this 442. They operate down to Fort Flonwood Parkway, Fort Flonwood Central. I nearly said, oh yeah, Charwood. Yeah, they do go to Charwood. And a few other places along the way. Southern operates to Queen City Junction, Munfingford Paragon, I think Denston as well. There's a service that goes there. And then Eastern, Southeastern, goes to, there's one that goes to Bath City Central. There's one that goes to Denston. There's one that goes to Drentbourne. There's one that goes to Tuningley. All over the place, basically. You can get to pretty much anywhere on the network from this station. Even going north, if you get on the Guard City Connect and Express trains, you can go pretty much anywhere you want. So it's a very, very important station on the network. However, it's arguably not as important as the last Guard City terminus. The absolute behemoth, the one that everyone sees pictures of and they talk about how big and impressive this station is. Let me introduce you to Guard City St. George. So this entire complex here, oh god, there's that sprite thing again. It fixes it when you zoom in and out, but it's really weird when you see it. The entirety of this complex here, minus the Halliday Circus platforms down here, and this station here, of course, this is Guard City St. George. Now, what was in the original station, I hear you ask? The answer is very simple. Everything here, from centre rail to the edge of this high-speed platform, that was the original station. So there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 platforms originally. Now, I believe there are 28, I want to say. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 30. I'm already wrong. 1, 2, 3, and then the 3 HLR platforms and the 3 underground platforms. So that's 39 platforms, I believe, this station has. And that doesn't include tram berths and bus stops and things like that. I was about to say something else, but no, that does include everything. This station is huge, and it's split into 5 different sections. So going west to east, you've got the HLR platforms here, these 3. The outer 2 are for through services, and the central one is for services terminating from Slenston. So the train will come in straight on, and then it will reverse, heading back out again. The next platforms, these ones here, all the ones that have these 313s in, these are the overground platforms. So like Guard City St. Christopher, this station is also an overground hub. This is for the more outside city. Actually, no, sorry. GSC is for the more outside city services. This is for the more inner city services. So we've got the Guard City Loop, for example. So there is a service that operates from here to here via the loop in one direction, and then it reverses, and it goes all the way around the loop again and comes back. We also have services from here to stations like In fact, where are you going? You're probably going to be a circle train now, aren't you? Oh, no, you're going to Flame Junction. So, yeah, you go along the DC lines, which are these ones here. We then got the circle line, which is the easternmost one here. The westernmost one is the one that goes up to Bunhattan, which is where this train is going. And then this way, this is why people think these junctions are complicated, by the way, because of the way the overground works here. This southern platform here is for trains from Bunhattan going to GSC. These are the approach tracks to GSC here. The central tracks here go around the loop from GSG, and the uppermost tracks here, the northernmost, they join the circle from Bunhattan. So it is possible for trains to go from Bunhattan around to, you know, GSP, for example, but we don't have that as an active service right now. We also have quite complicated junctions in this central section here. These are the centre rail platforms, these 6, but they don't quite work the same as the GSMA ones. So these ones are, you've got the down platform and then the up platform directly next to it. So for those of you that don't know, up tends to mean towards the major city, so in this case Guard City, and down means away from the major city. So these 2 tracks here, I suppose, where do these go? Oh yeah, these are the West Winds platforms. These 2. So these join up with the West Winds line at Flame Junction and then continue all the way up to Sunnington. These central tracks, these are the Great Northern platforms, and they join up with the Guard City Great Northern line, which is actually what these platforms are. These are the Great Northern platforms. And then these 2 are the DC platforms. They run up to Flame Junction, which right now I think are unpopulated, but they will be in the future. And I think there are overflows as well for various services. If one platform's full, they can use another one, I think. So as I said, these are the Great Northern platforms. These are all suburban trains, apart from the Airport Express, which will get moved over to these platforms in the future. I like this alignment, and you can see the way the tracks diverge around. These used to run into this part of the station, which I'll talk about in a second. But because of capacity reasons, you can see these platforms are always full. So you can imagine if these platforms were full of these trains, there'd be no room for any others. So I built a new section of the station specifically for this, and then the overground platforms actually came afterwards, and then the HLR platforms just about squeezed in after that. I think I had to move the HLR station over a couple of tiles to add these additional overground platforms in when they started getting a bit clogged up as well. This station works really well. It might not look like it. It might look a bit chaotic, shall we say, but trust me, it does work really, really well. Then we've got the express platforms, which are these ones here, up to this boundary. These are all for the Grand Northern franchise, which operates both the West Winds express services to Sunnington and stations in between, and then it also operates on the Grand Northern and Great Northern main lines to stations like Honningville, Warnbridge Airport, Beffingway, Gronwell, Superior, sometimes Nut Hill City Centre as well. These will be added in the near future, so I'm starting to plan out these services now. And as you can see, it's a huge station. It's HSTs operating at the moment, but I will be adding Class 91 services as well. I wanted HSTs on the West Winds route, and I'm to the point where I'm almost tempted to de-electrify the express platforms into GSG, but I didn't think it was worth it. So I've kind of kept them electrified, but we're using HSTs, which is extremely hazardous. But this is the 90s. We do what we want. The platforms here as well will, as I said, the Airport Express will be shifting over, and maybe some other express trains that aren't part of Grand Northern but are part of the express classification will use these platforms as well, just to free up some additional space on this side of the station. But again, we'll see about that. This platform here then, the westernmost of the high-speed platforms, this is actually a cargo platform, which is why it's connected to both the high-speed network and also the conventional network. This is where our mail trains are going to run from. This platform here and the one directly next to it are going to be our 2 dedicated mail platforms for Grand Northern and West Winds, which is Grand Northern. I don't know why I said that. That was always part of the plan. There was always going to be a mail platform here. Might as well use the one next to it as well, just for additional capacity if needed. Doesn't need to be as long as this. It's only this long because of the high-speed platforms. But high-speed freight will also use this platform specifically, so you can see that's why it's connected up. And then as you can see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 high-speed platforms. This one down here, that's a bus, I think. Yeah. So these 2 platforms are for the Railjet service, which hasn't been introduced yet and won't be for a while. That's why they're long. You can imagine this is like the Eurostar of the M4J network. So this building here is a departure lounge, first class lounge, check-in, luggage, all that kind of thing. And then you will go down an escalator onto the platform and board your train. That's what's meant to happen. And then these other 4 are conventional high-speed platforms. If you think 4's not enough, bear in mind St Pancras International has 3 platforms for high-speed domestic trains, and it kind of makes a bit more sense. Is the stream buffering for anyone, by the way? It seems to be... I'm getting warnings that it's not getting enough video, and OBS has been struggling for a while now. Let me know. Let me know. But yeah, this station works quite well. Not every route comes to Guard City on the high-speed network. And there's a good question actually about the high-speed network that I'll answer in a second. I was kind of holding off on that until now. But yeah, I like this layout. I think it works really well. And the station frontage here has to be the best in Guard City. It just looks absolutely gorgeous. And the buses, again, this is based on Amsterdam, the idea of this magnificent station building and then buses and trams out the front. If I could have buried these underground again, I would have, these underground platforms. I've always found it funny that GSG's underground station is far less impressive than Halliday Circus's. But it is the way it is. Technically, it's a bit like... if you ever go to XL, the XL Centre in London, there's 3 DLR stations that serve it. There's the western end, the middle, and then the eastern end. It's kind of the same, depending on where your train's departing from. Obviously, this doesn't work in-game, but imagine in real life. You might get a train to Halliday Circus instead of GSG if you're getting on an Overground train or an HLR train, for example. Because there is a station entrance here too. And yeah, that's pretty much it for... Oh no, I've missed one. GSB, Guard City St Bartholomew, which I think has the most connections of any station in Guard City in terms of what actually runs through here. I believe that's the case. Because here we have Network Central, which is the franchise that operates out of here. We've also got an overhead electrified overground line and third rail electrified overground line, an underground station, tram, bus. I know HLR doesn't run through here. I think HLR was going to run through here, but isn't. No, okay, maybe it's not the most connected then. But this is very, very nice. This is eye candy, by the way. It's technically part of the station, so this has got huge coverage. And we've got this massive bus station, which is going to be part of an experiment that I'm going to be working on in a few weeks' time. And yeah, I just really, really like it. It's a really nice building. You can imagine you come off the tram here, you walk across this underground plaza, and then you go through this building here, and you can kind of see where you work your way through to the main station still. This office building on top, actually imagine it's not an office building, this is a concert venue, I've just decided, on top of the station roof here. And then you've got the overground platforms north and south. I need to build something here as well. You can kind of see that you could walk underneath that. And then this is Guard Square. So if you actually look at the name of this station, its full name is Guard City St Bartholomew brackets Guard Square. And reminding myself of Bartholomew, there's nothing much else to talk about here. So I will talk about the final terminus station, which is Bartholomew Square, which is not to be confused with Guard Square. So St Bartholomew and Bartholomew Square, very different things. Stream's a bit choppy, but the sound works just fine. Sorry about that. I don't know why. I think it's the heat. My PC's deciding to go a bit on strike. Yeah, I figured something might have been going on. I do apologise. But yeah, Bartholomew Square is in the new Bathgate district. This used to be called Bartholomew, but as someone quite rightly pointed out, you can't really have 2 areas with Bartholomew in the name. So this is now Bathgate. We've got a tram stop here. We've got these 3 platforms, which are the Capital Line. I'll talk more about what those are in a bit. And then we've got an underground station here as well. And then this new underground line that branches off here that runs up to St Bartholomew. This didn't used to exist. This was built at the same time as St Bartholomew to connect it up. I'm kind of happy with it. Again, it looks like it's always been here, which is kind of the idea. But it's really cool, the way that it does work out. So the Capital Line is like the Moorgate branch of Guard City. It's a series of... it's not a series of lines. What am I talking about? It's a pair of lines that run from Plint Bridge, which is up here, which is basically our Finsbury Park. And then they diverge. They run down through here. And then they run around through Lay through these underground platforms here, where we connect with the Overground and the HLR. We also connect with the HLR down here at Lay Fishing Harbour. And then there's a couple more stations. I was tempted to remove some of these stations at one point, but decided just to leave them in. And then it terminates down here at Bartholomew Square. It's on the network map. It's really cool. I really must show off the network map more, actually. But, yeah. Anyway, we got some time left. There are some questions still in the Q&A that I'm going to work my way through. First one is, have I ever played Simutrans? Is that how you pronounce it? Is it Simutrans? I don't actually know. The answer is yes, I have played it. I loaded up the game. It was one of the... I can't remember what the... What's the word for like the version? They don't call it version, do they? They call it something else. I loaded up the one that was recommended, and I started looking at it, and I just thought, I don't have a clue what I'm doing here. So I just exited it again. I will one day go back to it. This was many, many years ago now, so I will probably be a lot better at it now. At least a lot better at understanding it, for sure. It's on my list. It's definitely on my list. So a question then about the high-speed network. What about the high-speed network? I've seen that on your map, and I admit the Guard City to Bar City line makes sense. The other two routes did puzzle me a little. So this is coming from an aspiring transport planner. And you know what? You're right. So, back in the day, I'm going to say one thing that I don't like about this network. This might sound weird when you hear me say it out loud. It's too small. The map size is too small. Guard City should be here in this central bit. And when I started the map, I thought it was in the middle. And it worked great until I started building what is now the West Wind line. And very quickly realised that I was in the northwest corner. Not great. Same when I went north as well. So the Grand Northern line runs across the northern spine here. But it was supposed to go straight north. Now I know there are ways now to make the map sizes bigger. But I really don't want to start again. So I'm kind of stuck with this. I did look into the possibility of exporting this into a bigger sized map. That could potentially be a thing still. And having this become the bottom right tile. So imagine this is twice the size. You've got another one of these here, here, and here. This would become the bottom right tile. So Guard City would be more central. And then all of these lines around it would make more sense. GSG would then go north. There'll be another set that would go this way and another set that would go this way. And these stations would just feel bigger and more important and things like that. Raphael Apoliano, I think I'm saying that right. Thank you very much for the subscribe on YouTube. Much appreciated. So the high speed, because of that, is kind of not smartly built. Let's put it that way. So the one that makes sense is the Bartholomew. What am I talking about? The Bar City to Guard City route. So from Guard City here, we run north through all of this into the suburbs. Then we turn east. We follow the main line along, and to cut a long story short, we skip past the first branch, which is this one. There's actually a train running down there, which is pretty cool. We go to the second branch, which is over here, and then from here it diverges and goes down to Bar City via... I'll keep going to say Fort Dronford, but it's not. I can never remember the names of the stations at this point. So one high-speed terminus is up here at Gronwell Superior. The only reason this one really exists is so that I can justify having a high-speed line. Running from here to Guard City takes about 20 to 30 minutes on a high-speed train operating at 189 miles per hour. 186, sorry, miles per hour. And that's my justification for it, really, is just so I could justify having a high-speed line and a long run. Likewise, this second branch that doesn't make sense runs down to the south coast. Where are we? Here. At Plenborough Torina. Now, this one makes more sense than the Gronwell one. It's a much bigger station here as well, for literally no other reason than I wanted to build a large station. But this is kind of a major hub on the South Coast route. It's roughly halfway along the South Coast. So it made more sense to build it here. And again, it just justifies having a long run between Guard City and here. This would make more sense. Plenborough to Gronwell, there is a route that does that. Bar City doesn't run here because you can get here on the Bar City Connect and Express services. And also Guard City to Gronwell, Guard City to here, and Guard City to Bar City. They're the only services we have operating right now. There's 4 in total. There might be scope in the future to build more high-speed lines. I don't know how feasible that would be now. Pretty much resigned to the fact that the high-speed and Transrapid networks are complete, and I'm just focusing on other conventional rail. But if I can make the map size the size I want it to be, which is like 4 times what it currently is, then that would be great. That would be great. Or currently, I guess twice the size of what it currently is, because you go X and Y. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It doesn't make sense at all. The Squishy Lombax. Interesting name. That's yeah, Ratchet, isn't it? Lombax. Thank you for the follow, though, on Twitch. Much, much, much appreciated. So the next question. As I was saying, though, you are right. It doesn't make sense, the high speed, at all. It's dumb, but it's my dumb, and I do like it. What happened to Guard City Exchange? Answered that one. What website do I use for the automated announcements in the network overview series? Good question. So I use a website called, I have it somewhere. Where do I have it? Free text-to-speech software by Video, which is video with a W, basically. So it's video.co/text-to-speech with hyphens between text and to and speech. There aren't many on there. I'm actually looking for a new website to get more voice types from, because I've had to go into Australian voices now just so I've got a variety, which I don't think is particularly realistic. But yeah, that's the website I use. If anyone has any suggestions, they were the best website I could find for royalty-free AI voice generation, basically, so I just use them. So there are some questions here. Any thoughts on the name Great British Railways, and questions to do with the GBR plan? We kind of had this debate on Discord the other day. I don't like the name GBR. It's too patriotic, which might sound weird. I think with everything going on at the moment, to throw the word great in front of British Railways just feels forced. I like something like Anglia Rail, or I had this conversation with my brother and my girlfriend, actually. Like, why not just Royal Rail? Like, I know it sounds like Royal Mail, but why not just Royal Rail or Royal Railways, something like that? Why does it need to have the name Great Britain anywhere near it? And I fell for this argument the other day, because the argument was name a country that doesn't have its country name in its railways. And I thought France did, but apparently France doesn't. The F doesn't stand for Francais like I thought it did. It stands for something else. But it's a good point. You know, Spain has Español in RENFE. I believe the B in SNCB stands for Belgium. There's lots of countries. Amtrak, American Track. What is the tracks? Is it traction? Something like that. It's something like that. But yeah, the AM in Amtrak is American. You know, Japan Railways, Japan East, Japan West. Very good point. They all have the country name in, but they didn't privatize and then revert back to nationalization. And that was kind of my argument was, why do we need to have the G in GBR? Why do we need to have the B in GBR? UK Railways is misleading because Northern Ireland isn't part of this new scheme. But they're not the only two options. It's not just Great British Railway or UK Railways. As I said, you can have Anglia Rail. If Scotland fight for independence and win, Scotland will be leaving Great Britain. Therefore, Great British Rail wouldn't serve Scotland anymore. Wales might end up doing something similar as well. So, yeah, Anglia Rail fits. Anglia is England. Now, obviously, if they don't leave, Anglia is misleading. Royal Rail, Royal Railways. That actually sounds pretty cool. You can have the royal seal of approval on the railways then. I like that. I think that's a better alternative to GBR. It just feels forced. It feels a bit too nostalgic as well. especially if they operate it like British Rail. These are personal opinions, by the way. Don't take these as fact. This is just my thoughts off the top of my head. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, whether it's right or wrong. I'm pretty sure mine's wrong, but here we are. And the questions about the GBR plan, what are the things I like about it? I like the fact that it takes the risk away from the companies involved now, so the government take the financial risk. I actually like the idea. It never made sense to me that companies should have to pay for the right to operate a service. Companies should be paid to operate a service. It's like if you went into, let's say you're a cleaner, and you went to a building and you did the cleaning. You shouldn't have to pay for the right to clean their office. You should be paid to clean their office. So this is kind of the same. Now, companies are going to be paid to run the railways rather than paying to run the railways and then trying to make the money back through passenger fares. That gives them more of an incentive now to actually do a decent job. They get paid bonuses according to train reliability, timetable reliability, and all that good thing. So I like the plan. The only thing I don't like about the only things I don't like about the plan, and actually, if you bear with me 1 second, I have a diagram that I can refer to for this. Because I thought this was a pretty foolproof plan until I saw something in my magazine that triggered me. So there's a lovely diagram, which is the ones that you shared, George, that show the new future money flows and the future industry structure. And it all looks great, except there's a little section that says, in some markets, operators will also share revenue with GBR, which sounds a little too similar to what already happens for me. I'm not sure, maybe a bit of clarification will help me understand that some, but right now, I don't know. I don't know if I like that section of it, but I really like the idea that the DFT funds GBR through a grant, and then passengers fund GBR through fares, and then that money is distributed to passenger service operators as fees. The only other thing I'm not a fan of is the name, but we've been over that. Gert, can we do some more auditions for passenger announcements? It's funny you should mention that. The network overview series was delayed. Whoops, just whacked my microphone, sorry. Was delayed by over 12 months. It is coming back, by the way. People have asked about that. It is coming back. I'll explain more about that in a second as well. It was delayed by over 12 months because I announced the series. I announced I was intending on creating a series where we would look at individual services along the network. And at the time, I had all the episodes that have already been broadcast. I had all those recorded and ready to go. And I asked on the OpenTTD forums, the OpenTTD Reddit, and my Reddit, and my Discord, and my channel, if there was anyone who'd be willing to do voiceovers for me. At the time I wanted maps drawn. This was when I was still trying to get custom liveries done as well, train liveries, which I now have. And again, there'll be a shout out for that at the end as well. So it was maps drawn, liveries, and announcements. Those were the three things I was asking for. No one replied. Not one person. No one even came back to me and said, would love to help but can't. Not one person. I got completely blanked on every single forum that I posted on. So I would love for people to volunteer and take part in this. The whole point of it was going to be a community thing. I don't want it to be my voice. I've deliberately excluded myself from this project. It's never going to be my voice. It will always be someone else's. I ended up using AI because easy, it was available. But I wanted it to be that if you owned a franchise on the network, you would have the first choice as to whether you wanted to record your lines or not for your franchise. If you didn't, that's fine. I would use AI or an alternative. But it was another way to try and get people involved. The option is still open, by the way. If you would like to be involved, message me. Comment down below, message me on Discord, whatever it might be. I am looking for people because I've got 3 or 4 new franchises joining the series in the coming weeks. So I might as well announce it now. This last episode that is broadcast ends at Munfingford Paragon. I've now got a video ready to go that is an overview of Paragon itself. And then I've got a service that runs from Munfingford Paragon to GSMA. Then I've got the really long express, the Capitals Express, between Guard City St Mark and Bath City Central. Then I've got a service from Bath City Central to Gronwell Superior up the east coast. Then I've got a high-speed service into GSG. And then from GSG, I've got a West Winds train up to Sunnington. And then from Sunnington, I've got a Northwestern train across the North Valleys line to Beffingway. They're all recorded. I'm currently writing captions now for the East Coast line, but they're all recorded. They're all ready to go. I have re-recorded a couple of them a couple of times, and I might re-record the actual in-game footage 1 or 2 more times, just so I'm happy with that. But those episodes, in theory, are ready to go, but I'm holding off on them because I feel like they could be better. And I feel like the announcements could be better. So yeah, if you want to do them, contact me. Let's talk about it. If you've got a decent microphone and Audacity, we can do something. We can definitely do something. Next question. How would you divide the passenger service contracts under GBR's new system? I would have 2 types, first and foremost. I would have commuter and I would have express. Now, commuter, especially around London, could get surpassed by TfL. They could all become London Overground franchises, at which point this wouldn't really count anymore. But one question we were asking the other week was whether Thameslink should be nationalised or not. And I'm starting to think it should. I am starting to think it should. The reason being is I would quite like to see Great Northern out of King's Cross and Moorgate become part of London Overground. I think that would actually work better as a metro-style system. And as a result of that, I think Thameslink should be nationalised as well. Purely, even if it's not run as part of TfL, it should be run by GBR, kind of like Cross Country will be. Not subcontracted out. I think it should be government run, mainly for efficiency reasons, but also there's been so many problems with Thameslink. If we are going to replace franchising with management contracts, we might as well keep this one nationalised. Purely because then they'll realise how hard it is and they maybe won't blame other operators for their shortcomings, particularly when it's Network Rail's fault that these shortcomings have happened in the first place. So yeah, I think those ones make sense. To subcontract out long distance, so the East Coast Main Line, the West Coast Main Line, the Great Western Main Line, the Great Eastern Main Line, those make sense. Have one company operate those, but also keep it for open access as well. So is it still GNER or have they renamed themselves now? The company that's going to be starting the first group operated open access on the East Coast. That, Grand Central, Hull Trains, they should stay. They should pretty much stay as they are. The open access, the way that works pretty well in my opinion, so I wouldn't want to see that change at all. And I would like that to be encouraged more often now, because there's less competition now when you think about it. These companies are paid their money no matter what for operating these routes. So there's less competition if an open access operator springs in as well. So I would like to see that happen. Beyond that, maybe cross country should stay nationalised. In fact, I think I already said that. So again, you know, if you're going right the way across the country, that should be nationalised. I think that was the question you were asking anyway. How should it be divided? And I don't like the region system. I think the regions should be divided a lot more. I think Wales should be its own section, not Wales and Western. I think anything... I also mentioned this on the Discord. Scotland should be Lowland and Highland. So the Highlands, the West Highland line, the route up to... I can never remember. Is it Thurso? The most northern station? That should be separate to... operated separately to the Glasgow commuter routes. And I think there should be commuter operators. So Glasgow, Edinburgh, even up to places like Aberdeen. Like Intercity as well in Scotland should be its own thing. And then Highland services should be their own operator as well, even if that's just nationalised. And that could be ScotRail then. And the commuter routes could be something different. Because then you keep the ScotRail name, you know. You also keep the traditional routes too. That's about as good as I can answer that question, to be honest. It's a very, very convoluted thing. What's become very apparent to me over the last few days debating with people on Discord is I have my own thoughts and feelings about this, and so do you. Neither of us are qualified to really have the discussion. Even people that are being quoted on Discord aren't qualified really to have the discussion. We're all going to have different opinions. This is probably the same issue that's been going on in the rail industry as well. Everyone's got different opinions as to how it should be run. There's never going to be a right answer. There's never going to be a unanimous agreement. So I can only answer it to the best of my abilities, which might not be to your liking, but there we are. Best stream I've ever had. Let me change the camera quickly so we're not just looking at the same thing all the time. Let's watch, actually let's watch trains leaving GSMA for a bit, because this is always cool to watch. Best stream I've ever had and why. The first time I streamed Space Engineers back in 2014, I think, or 2013. The very first stream I ever did on Twitch. It was originally me on my own, building a mining ship in an asteroid. And then by the end of the second day, I had 100 followers on Twitch, and I had 20 people in the game with me. That was my favourite stream. These are all great, don't get me wrong. The stream where I hit 1,000 subscribers as well, streaming OpenTTD, that was great. That was one of the best streams ever. But that very first stream, and I think the problem with that stream was it started off so good that when I stopped getting the views for a while, it kind of hit me hard. I entered way too hard. I was never expecting to get that many people watching, never mind that many people in the game. Back then the rules were if you watched the stream and you asked the right question, you could join the game. It's not quite that way anymore. Patrons only these days. But that was such a good time. I met some really, really awesome people streaming there as well. And I really, really regret not keeping in contact with most of them. But hopefully they're still around. And I would definitely jump into a Space Engineers game with those guys again. Best advice I've ever been given and why. It's not something that's come from someone directly, but the best advice I've kind of learned through my life is just because your first goal isn't reachable doesn't mean there isn't something else you can do instead. So like, to put that in context in a story, I was an engineering student. I used to love engineering. I lived it. I breathed it. Brunel was my king. And I got to uni on a scholarship from college with a diploma in engineering and just couldn't do it. I couldn't do the work. I couldn't concentrate, couldn't focus. There was a lot of other stuff going on in the background, but to tell the short story, I had to drop out of mechanical engineering because I just found it too difficult. Transferred to aerospace tech. Couldn't do that either. It was also hard. One of the things was exams, and I could rant for hours about exams and how pointless they are. But in the end, I'm going to turn... Hang on one sec, because this music is so loud. Can I change that on here, actually? I don't think I can. I might just stop the music. So I can still hear it, but you guys can't. So you can actually hear what I'm saying here, because this is valuable, valuable, valuable advice. I switched to media. I had my YouTube channel. I loved doing YouTube. I wanted to get better at YouTube. So I started looking at courses, and the uni I went to, the University of Hertfordshire, can't recommend it enough, they did media courses, and I found this one, interactive media design. I contacted the program lead, was not expecting to get a reply, just saying, you know, I'm already a student on campus, I'm currently doing engineering, not having a great time, I've got a YouTube channel, I want to enhance my video making skills, can I transfer? And I met up with him, had a chat, and I transferred. They let me do it, which I still can't believe to this day. Yeah, maybe there was a admin error or I ticked a box or something, I don't know. But yeah, I transferred. And the advice I got from that is, just because the original door closed on me, the engineering door, doesn't mean that uni was no longer a viable option, didn't mean further education was no longer a viable option, and it doesn't mean I gave up. Because it took me 6 years and 3 courses to earn my degree. But in the end, I graduated with a 2-1 in interactive media design. And I think that was the proudest day of my life, because I proved that I could actually do university. And the plan in life for me now is to one day be comfortable enough that I can go back and finish my engineering degree to prove that I could do that too. But, I mean, I'm proving it to myself, by the way. No one in my family really doubted me. There's jokes about, oh, we never thought you would graduate. But, you know, I had a very good support network around me. But yeah, don't give up, really. Just don't give up. It might seem like you can't do it, but there's always an alternative. There's always something else you can do instead. If you've got a passion, chase it. If you've got a hobby that you enjoy doing and you can turn that into a career, even if it's not what you see yourself doing right now, do it. You know, 5 years ago, in fact, how long ago? Let me do the math. 6 years ago, I wanted to be a theme park designer, and I was doing an engineering degree so that I could work for a company like B&M. Now, I work as director of media for a football club. I was previously a game designer, as well as a script writer and a community manager. And, you know, I'm also now a pixel artist. I'm a coder. I'm a website developer. I never imagined I would do any of this stuff 6 years ago. And if you told me it, I'd have said you were talking about someone else. So to actually sit here now and say that, it's kind of a cool feeling, you know? So yeah, That's my advice. It wasn't given to me by a specific person, but multiple people in my family kept telling me to not give up and try this and try that. I didn't want to chase the media degree. My dad talked me into it, and I'm very glad that happened because it opened so many doors for me. Made me meet so many cool people at uni, some of whom I still talk to, some of whom I sadly don't anymore. Got me a really good job for 2 years working with some good guys who, again, sadly it didn't work out, but that's life. And here we are now. I've got some really cool things in the pipeline as well that I'm working on because of all of it. So there we are. Question back with the network. How do I deal with the sheer amount of cargo to move in these dense cities? I end up with hundreds of people waiting at buses and streetcars. Yeah, so slight confession time. GSMA has 25,000 passengers waiting. Admittedly, oh, this is something else that you might find impressive. This is a list of all the stations people want to get to from GSMA. And it goes on. This is a 4K screen, by the way. And it goes on. Now, get rid of the 10,500, or was it 16,500, sorry, at the top here. That takes us down to like 9,000, which is more realistic. Peaks and troughs is the script I use at the moment for passenger distribution. And as you can see, it works absolutely way beyond what I can manage. And because of that, we have thousands and thousands of passengers, most of which will never get moved. The simple solution is to increase the capacity of my trains. Don't really want to do that. This is a realistic network after all, but eventually something's got to give. If there was a button I could press right now that would just clear all of the cargo waiting at stations, in fact, is there a button that does that? If there is, can someone tell me where it is so I can press it, please? Because I do want to kind of do a system reset on the network. That would be great. Okay, quiz round. This is how we're going to end. Oh, actually, no. We're going to have one more question, and then we're going to have a pop quiz to end the stream. So, inspired by what Gareth Dennis has been doing in his Transport Fever 2 map recently, does the M4J Network map have any sort of A-roads or motorways? If not, will it in the future? So they don't work the same as in TPF2. This is from Master Trams again. OpenTTD doesn't have private transport. There is an AI that simulates private transport, but apparently it doesn't work that great. So I've avoided using it. But yes, we do have motorways and A-roads. So if I head over to Wenfingfield, which is the first major station, he says, trying to find it, on the Western Reaches North, we have a set of motorways here that have been kind of lost in amongst everything. And one thing I've wanted to do, actually, so after the pop quiz, I'll talk through some things I've wanted to change about the network as well, because I did say I would do that. But yeah, we've got a motorway network here that's kind of been lost over time, where railways have been built or stations have been expanded over it. But the big one is the Guard City Orbital, which you can see some of here. And there's also some of it. I've got to remember which part is which. In fact, where is it? Oh, here. This is the Guard City Orbital, which is based on the M25. And it gets to this point here where you turn this way and you carry on. If you go this way, you're actually on a different road. There's a junction on the M25 that is like that. You have to turn off the M25 to stay on the M25. Mind blown. But yeah, this is the main orbital road of Guard City. We also have a main road, this one, that runs into the center of the city, he says. Yes. So this isn't the Guard City Orbital. This is like an inner road. It does connect up at both ends to the orbital. In fact, this used to be the old orbital, I think, before it was rebuilt. But then we got this main road here. I want to get someone on who's more interested in roads than I am to actually help me design road networks. Not necessarily to build them for me, but just to help design them. Because I think there's some really good opportunities for buses and trucks in this game. And the next episodes after this will be redoing the bus networks again. Not just in Guard City, but actually around. So Bar City, Wenfingfield, Fort Flonwood, places like that. Starting to connect more of that together. Because right now, this company is very, very, very much losing money. It shows we're making a profit here, but the new vehicles cost is stinging us so hard right now. And if you actually look, we're almost making that amount from train income. But I want to get the road vehicle income up into the hundreds of millions. That would be perfect as a good way of offsetting everything else. And obviously, the more vehicles you have, the more vehicles you're going to be renewing. So it's going to cost more that way. But I don't want this to just be about railways anymore. I do want to start looking at other forms of transport. So we've got Guard City Waterways now. We've got Guard City Airways, which sucks, but it will get better in the future, I'm sure. We're now starting to look at mail. I want to bring buses back into the equation. I want to start looking at, are there any other cities around the map that could use a tram system? It's not just about rail anymore. There's a lot more to the M4J network, because there are franchise opportunities, not just for rail, but for air, land and sea as well. So if you are someone who likes roads, get in touch. Let's chat. Let's chat about a lot of things. There's a lot of people I want to talk to about a lot of things right now. But if you're someone who's more into road design and things like that, do let me know. And that's the reason, George, why I asked you to share that bus document, because I wanted to see how the real world does it, so I can then try and interpret that into the M4J network. All right, last sets of questions. I was about to say last question, but there's quite a few. So this is mostly to do with the M4J network. So the first question is, which franchise operates over the largest geographical area? My answer to that is probably High Speed. Because it starts here at Guard City, it runs all the way down to Bar City, it also covers Plenborough, Gronwell, and there's multiple stations in between as well. So it almost covers the entire map. You can kind of say the same for Transrapid. In terms of a distance covered, it's the second largest, but in terms of stations, I think it's the second smallest. In terms of stations, so obviously Guard City Overground operates around the entirety of Greater Guard City, which there is a box normally that you would see on screen, and then it does go beyond it too. I'm going to zoom in again because this really does slow down my PC. Where should we end? Let's end looking at GSG, shall we? So I think cross-country and cross-region as well cover huge ground. They are separate. They will be operated as separate franchises, even though they're both part of Cross Network. I think I will manage them separately. Maybe not, though. We'll see. Depends which tier that becomes a part of, I suppose. Which franchise operates over the smallest geographic area? So currently running, I would say West Winds, because it's literally St. Elizabeth to Sunnington. But it doesn't even reach Sunnington. It goes up to Drunnington and Tenfing Bridge and Flame Junction, and that's it. So currently that one. But in the future, there's the Northern Metro, which is a lot smaller. It would probably be that. The HLR as well is pretty small when you think about it. It's got a lot of stations, but it's only got 5 branches, and it barely covers Guard City. Which franchise operates the most services in peak time? I would say GWR, Guard City Western Railway. George has been very, very militant in terms of the amount of trains, day and night. There's also one-off trains that I still haven't added, so trains that only run once a day. It looks quiet right now, but during peak hours, believe me, this picks up. And during night time as well, we have trains, special trains that run just at night. So probably that one. Franchise operates the fewest services in peak time. That would be Transrapid. There's only 2 services. One direct to Bar City, doesn't stop anywhere, and then one that stops at a couple of stations along the way. There will eventually be more, but right now it only operates 2 services. And that's all day, 1 an hour. So I think there's a train every half hour in total. Which franchise is the busiest? Oh, probably Overground. Must be Overground. So many people use Overground or Underground. I wish there was a way of checking, actually. I could show you which one's the most profitable, but that doesn't tell you which one's the busiest. Someone should build a plugin that actually tells you which train group carries the most passengers, or at least the most cargo. So I could then point definitively and say that one. Which franchise is the quietest? So I think the quietest is probably... Oh, that's a good question as well, actually. Probably Network Central, actually, because it doesn't... Right now, it doesn't connect an awful lot. It will in the future, but right now it's quite limited. So probably that one. I just realised I'm still wearing my headset, despite the fact the music paused ages ago. So I'm just going to hang that up. We are coming towards the end now, just so you all know. And again, I'll do my dedications and stuff shortly. Which Guard City station sees the most passengers per day? I would say by a country mile, GSG, just by the sheer number of trains that come through here. I mean, you look right now, look how many overground trains We've got how many Great Northern trains, even the Centre Rail trains, a couple of express trains, and we've got 3 high-speed trains here as well. And that's not including the underground trains which run through. I think there's one every 20 minutes on the Circle line. There's one every hour on the other 2 lines. So I think there's on the other lines, and I think there's 4 lines run through here. So a lot. And then you've got the trams and the buses as well. So I think GSG by far the least. Either GSB or GSE. I think GSB right now, because of it has got connections, but not many. GSC is pretty quiet as well. You can see already it's got a manageable number of passengers waiting, which tells you that there's not that many. I mean, how many's GSG got? Oh, actually, you only got... Okay. I'm sure GSG has a lot of passengers come through still, though. There's an underground train stopping. There's a tram just arriving as well. A lot. So yeah, the same answers really for terminuses as well. I think the station, the Guard City station that sees the fewest passengers. That's a good point. I didn't read that properly. I read it as terminus. Maybe one of the overground stations. Florentine Way actually has to have a say because it doesn't connect to anything. It's just for trains passengers transferring between 2 services. It doesn't accept passengers at all. Even though there's buildings here, actually, I'm surprised that it doesn't. It says it accepts nothing. I think it generates passengers though. So I would argue probably that one. What's the busiest station outside of Guard City and Bar City? If I was to hazard a guess, I would say Fort Flonwood Parkway, which at the time of its construction was the largest single construction I'd ever built. This is it here. This is what I mean about we need to extend the bus networks on the map, because this is ridiculous that this even exists. So we got the Western Reaches south, these easy express tracks. We got the slow tracks here, where it goes to conventional rail for a while and then switches back. These are on the route to Charwood, which goes down that way. I can't remember what that line's called. This heads off towards Buntbourne Parkway. And then we've also got this loop line, which connects to Buntbourne and Munfingford and stations like that. And then, yeah, all 3 of these lines go up to Fort Flonwood Central. If it's not this, it'll be Wenfingfield, I imagine, or maybe Monningpool Falls, because they're pretty busy as well. The longest continuous service on the network, like the UK's Aberdeen to Penzance route. That's an easy one as well. Sanley, which is right the way down here. Right the way over. So Sanley, which is down here, to Gronwell up here. And it goes along the south coast to Quin City, which is somewhere, I think it's around here, it branches off. Runs up through Quin City, through Munfingford, and then up through Denston, and then across like this. So it kind of does like an L shape to end up at Gronwell. It's part of the cross-country franchise. You've also got Pruntford in the southeast corner up to Sunnington in the northwest. But I'm pretty sure that the Sanley to Gronwell is a longer track distance. Pretty sure. Which franchise makes the most money? Let's find out, shall we? So again, you might not be able to see this if you're watching it on a smaller screen. But if I collapse this. So right now, we're making like 900 million per year profit, which is good. Bar City Connect, 124. East Coast, 25. Eastern Trains, only 2 million, but we've only got 1 service. So right now, actually, that's probably the smallest service on the network. Guard City Connect, what's that, 84? I'm going by last year, not this year, because right now we're in December. So Great Eastern, 30. Great Northern, 52. Overground, 87. South Eastern, 125. Southwestern, 83. Southern, 91, Underground 78, Western Railway GWR 84, Grand Northern only 11 million, but that will expand. 36 for the HLR. The Heritage lines right now we're losing an absolute ton, although that's only the Blue Lagoon. I know we do have the other 2. Yeah, the standard gauge lines. I never actually added more trains to those, so I need to do that. 45 million for high speed. Metro North Coast. That's the one I was telling you about. That will get money in the future. Mount Pleasant loses us a lot as well. Network Central 77, North Rail 45, Transrapid just loses money. West Winds 12, Western Reaches North loses money actually. Western Reaches South 36. I think it's these ones that lose money. Like the running cost of these is extortionate. Yeah, 10 million a year to run those trains. It's just obscene. And then Cross Network, which is not region and country, is 174. So from that alone, looks like Cross Network is actually the highest earner, which is interesting. The least money, I can't remember which one was the smallest. Whichever one that was. The East Coast, wasn't it? East Trains, only 2 million. Which franchise is the oldest? That would be Great Eastern. I think that was the first set of trains I added to the net. Actually, no. Tell a lie. What is now Grand Northern, but used to be West Winds. So the HSTs here, trust there not to be one when I was looking for it, that run up to Sunnington. Those were the first trains I added in the series. West Winds Express, I believe the episode was called. It was episode 3 or 4, maybe even 5. That was the first one. Wow, that feels like such a long time ago now. That's insane. The youngest franchise right now is M4J Mail Rail. But if you're going by passengers, probably Southeastern? Guard City Southeastern? I think it's the most recent one. The most successful, I mean, by the money, Cross Network. But I think in terms of like connections and stuff, Guard City Overground. And the least successful, East Coast, maybe, because there's just nothing there right now. There's no connections at all, but that will change in the future. And I mean, the Mount Pleasant Railway wasn't built to make money. None of the heritage railways were built to make money. None of the steam ones. And in fact, in terms of operations, the Mount Pleasant Railway is a logistical nightmare because of the passing loops. If I head over, where is it? Here we are. Look how natural this all looks now, by the way. Oh, they are working again. Or are they? Hang on a second. Oh no, they are working. Okay. Just before I started the stream, I got messages saying like 5 of the trains couldn't find a path to continue. But that seems to not be the case anymore, which is nice. But yeah, I mean, look at this. It's absolutely fantastic to see this working. And we got mail waiting. This is another reason why I wanted to get mail rail working, was because I anticipated that we would have a connection in the future to Mewood from Mount Pleasant for mail, and then it would get picked up by the mail train and brought back into Guard City and distributed onwards. That's the plan. There is a road now that connects it all up. But yeah, I think that comes to the end of the stream, guys. We've had a lot of people in the chat. It's awesome to see you all. Thank you all, everyone who's subscribed and hit the like button and all that good stuff. The view count is also looking very healthy, so awesome. Thank you very much for that too. I'm going to zoom out and just give an overview of the network here. So there are some things that I would like to change about the network. I've talked about the map size. I want to add more things still, like roads, airports. I really want we've got airlines running in this part of the map, sort of this quadrant, but I really want to get these other quadrants. So again, talking to someone who knows more about the aviation industry than I do, which is funny because when I did engineering, I actually studied aviation for a year and a half and how airports work and things like that. Let's go have a look at Bath City actually to end, because I think I'm zoomed out too far again. This is Bath City Central. I've got a whole video talking about this coming up, so I don't need to worry about this right now. But yeah, trying to come up with a decent aviation network, because I think that will help offset some of the bills that I've currently got and help make the company profitable. Plus, it will also hopefully entice more people to become patrons. If you head over to my website, you can read more about this, but basically patrons will have access to franchises and you can run them as you please. If they're rail-based, there are more rules, but road, sea, and air, you can pretty much do as you like because you won't be blocking anybody else. So check out the website for details, and they're called franchises right now, but in line with what's happening in the UK, I think I will rename them to management contracts. You will operate them as a manager rather than as a franchisee. Obviously you wouldn't get paid for it because I don't have any money to give you, but you could imagine that's how it would work in real life. that's one thing I would change then. The other thing I would change is the way I've timetabled some of these services, and that is something that's fixable. I can go back and redo a lot of the timetables. Now we've got services running, I can definitely see where the failures are across the network and what I would change and what I would do differently. Believe me, there are lots of things that I would do differently with scheduling and things. And that those patches that I was suggesting, however many weeks ago that was now, I really would like to see those become a reality, because that would make my life so much easier with scheduling. Being able to accurately predict when a train will actually arrive at a station as you're setting up that first schedule. You can time trains, sure, but you won't necessarily get the same result each time. So to be able to do that would be good as well. The fact that the timetables, like you saw the number of trains chasing each other around Guard City, they're on the same timetable, those trains, but if the timetable gets cleared for whatever reason, it'll come up saying, so it's to do with scheduled dispatch basically, it will say schedule not timetabled or something like that. I can't remember what it actually says now, but it just keeps dispatching trains at really weird times. So I at one point had 6 overground trains chasing each other around the loop because scheduled dispatch stopped working properly. So it's not so much something I would like to change about the network, but it's something that I wish would change to help the network run better. Is there seems to be a bug with scheduled dispatch, and the guy who wrote scheduled dispatch has explained it as the way the game works, it doesn't always run reliably, which is fine. You know, sometimes I'm not blaming the developers at all. Sometimes you just got to hold your hands up and say it's a software issue. But when it makes it hard to run reliable networks, like I'm trying to do here, it makes me reluctant to add more trains to the network, knowing full well that they won't work correctly. And this is very obvious in and around Guard City. It's also quite obvious with you saw the planes that I was talking about at Guard Lake. That was also part of the problem, where they just keep dispatching. They don't go to the depot and sit there. They seem to dispatch and sit at the airport, which means it actually blocks planes that are running late, which means they can't load up with passengers, and it just messes up everything, which is why I want to get rid of Guard Lake as an airport and just revert it back to train, ship, and bus. But yeah, that's something else. More roads I'd like to see as well. Some of my network designs were atrocious back in the day, and I'm slowly working my way through and rebuilding them and making them better. One of the things I really don't like is the approach to Sanley. So if I head back over to Sanley, this set of approach tracks here is fine, but this bit here, where it just goes off, I don't know what it is about it. I just don't like it. And I have quite a few stations across the network just like this, where they were built with the realism initiative. So each one of these was a waypoint that slowed the trains down. But we don't need that anymore. So like this whole section here could be bulldozed, because trains now could slow down here and then run into the station that way. So that's something I'd look to do. And I think my biggest regret with the network is I didn't believe in it enough back in the day to actually promote it more. Because, like, only in the last few months have I started sharing it on the OpenTTD Discord and Reddit, and the response I've got from that has been really, really positive. And I wish I'd shared this earlier, because I think it would have helped the channel growth a lot more as well. Oh, thank you. Very kind words. Thank you very much. But yeah, it's kind of just self-confidence and things. I've had a lot of problems with OpenTTD in the past. Those of you who know the story. 3 times I tried to get a series out of this game and it wasn't working. And I gave myself one more chance, and that became the Jeffries network, which is now the M4J network. But yeah, just not believing in myself enough to actually share it and engaging with the community as well. So becoming part of... I'm not part of the BR Trains team, actually. I want to make that clear. But actually getting in touch with those guys and asking them for help with deliveries. I wish I'd done that earlier as well, because that would have made a huge difference. You can see the APTs are running in M4J rail livery. And I will be going back and redoing a lot of those liveries as well and making them better. So what you're seeing now is like phase 1, which is taking an existing livery and just changing the colours. In the future, I will actually draw my own liveries from scratch. And there's a brilliant artist on the OpenTTD, the BR Trains Discord. Probably butchering the pronunciation again. Is it Odigex? Audigex? He's gone through it. He's created BR Trains 2. You might have seen it posted on the Reddit yesterday or the day before. He's added so many locos and so many trains that weren't part of the original set. The ones I'm really excited about are the Pacers have been added. So the Northwestern franchise could get Pacers now. A lot of rural branch lines. So, for example, that huge hole that I pointed to over here, where there's just no rail in this big gap, these could become branch lines, rural branch lines. Is this a heritage line that I've got here? It is, isn't it? Yeah. Chug chug. This will become rural branch lines, and we'll have Pacers operating in 153s and things like that, and be like proper rural railways. I want to add more of that stuff as well. I think that would be really fun to do. And I had one more. Just the variety of stock in general, actually, I'd like to mix up a bit more and be a bit more authentic. Almost to the point where I'm taking the timeline back slightly. So we've got a lot of trains from the 1950s operating on the network still. But we've also gone quite modern in terms of the timeline. We've got trains from the 80s and the 90s. And the reason I chose 94, 95 was to justify the use of the short Eurostar sets on the high-speed line. But I really want to keep using older trains and loco hauled stock and things like that. So having M4J rail liveried class 47s, for example, operating on the network, hauling loco hauled stock. So we have got the networkers as well. We've also got the 91s with the Intercity 225 sets, things like that. But there's so much more variety that I want to add to the network. So I want to say a big thanks to John on the BR Trains Discord for actually producing these sets. And then I will use those as a basis to go in and make M4J rail versions. My girlfriend very, very, very awesomely bought me a graphics tablet for my birthday, which I will be using to create that. Rather than having to do it with a mouse, I can actually do it with a graphics tablet, which I've never used before and I'm terrified about. But I'm very much, at the same time, looking forward to actually getting out of the box and getting started. Because I want to design a logo for M4J Rail 2 and M4J Transport. And also, something else that I shared on the Discord yesterday was someone on the OpenTTD Reddit has created a program that allows you to make maps out of your save files, which is, again, an amazing thing. But it requires some software that I don't have access to. So I've asked for some help with that too. But hopefully if I can create a map of the M4J network, it won't be for sale, because I don't think it's right to use someone else's software to produce something like that. But I would like to make a thumbnail out of it for sure, and maybe have a image on my website that you can go and view and actually see the M4J network, not in a like London tube map interpretation, but an actual digital interpretation of how the M4J network actually looks from above. That would be so freaking cool. So again, I've asked for people's help with that. I would like to see that happen sooner rather than later, to be honest, but that would be cool. And also a big thanks to George for making the original network map as well, which should be available soon on the website. I keep forgetting to do it. I need the latest version of it. That's the problem. But that'll be available as well. And just to wrap up the stream, a big thank you to every single one of you who has watched the videos from the first episode up till now. I can't remember the date of episode 1 of the M4J network, but I know it's around 2-3 years ago now. And there's been bumps in the road along the way. There's been times where I disabled comments on my channel, things like that. But overall, some of the ideas that people have come up with that have helped shape this network, I can't take credit for that. I have to share it with you guys, because people have commented things, people have suggested things in the Discord or the Reddit that have become key episodes in the series. Fort Flonwood Parkway, for example, which was a huge stream, really, really well received. I think that was the first time I hit 100 likes on a post on Reddit as well. That came about from a viewer suggestion. You know, the idea of even Mail Rail really was a culmination of viewer suggestions. Some of it was off my own back. More of it than normal was off my own back. But the majority of it was viewer suggestions. Things like, you know, the Overground Network was a viewer suggestion. The High Speed Network was a viewer suggestion. Converting the Lafayette branch into a light rail network, that was a viewer suggestion. The fact that this series helped my channel reach 1,000 subscribers, when for so many years prior I'd plateaued on sort of 800-900 and didn't really know if I was ever going to grow anymore. started sharing my content a bit more, and we hit 1,000 subscribers. Since then, we've hit 1,001. 1,001. 1,100. 1,100. That's what I was trying to say, which is just incredible as well. So this series owes a lot to you, and I can't imagine it would be fair to say that you guys owe a lot to this series, but it definitely owes a lot to you, and I owe a lot to you, and this channel owes a lot to you as well. The reason this thing continues is because the support it gets. So huge thank you to every single one of you who's watched the videos, whether you've watched it once, twice, 3 times, that's absolutely fine. They're all appreciated. Once is more than enough a lot of the time, but anyone who has watched it consistently for view count reasons and things like that, I really, really do appreciate it. Anyone who's hit the like button, any kind of interactivity, all these people who claim to have cracked the YouTube algorithm, I bet you my house they haven't. But one thing that does help a channel is interactivity. Likes, comments, shares, subscribes, all of that helps a channel's growth. Even dislikes actually help a channel more than you think. It tells the viewer you don't like the video. That's all a dislike does. It doesn't stifle its growth. So anyone who's hit any of those buttons as well, huge, huge thanks for helping me out. Anyone who's commented on a Reddit post, anyone who's taken part in chats on Discord, anyone who's helped me with my problems, whether it's trying to get the BR Trains source files, whether it's trying to fix a bug that I've had. Huge thanks to Lieutenant Joker and JGR as well for making the patch packs that this game has existed on over the years. Anyone who has helped me with coming up with video ideas, episode titles, thumbnail designs, you know, my previous colleagues who helped me out with ideas when I was struggling a couple of years ago. Everyone who's helped make this series what it is, a huge, huge thanks. You know, I won't get too gushy and emotional about it, but, you know, 100 episodes is a big deal. A lot of people have been saying that. For me, it's not as much because I've made it to 100 a few times before, but kind of takes an outsider's point of view to say, wow, 100 episodes is a lot. And technically, this isn't the 100th episode. This is like the 109th, I want to say, if you include all the 0.5s and things like that as well. But canonically speaking, this is the 100th episode. And it wouldn't be that way if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you, everybody. Please hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Like I said, it really does help out the channel. I would love to see more people in the future getting involved in the comment section and the chats if the videos premiered. Join the Discord as well. Please do join the Discord and get involved in the chats there too. A lot of it is healthy debate. Don't get me wrong. We don't agree on everything. Most of the time we don't agree on anything. But I like to come at it as, I hate the spread of misinformation, whether it's done knowingly or otherwise. And if I see something that I just know is incorrect on the Discord, then I will kind of contest it. And it might come across as I'm being a bit aggressive, but really it's kind of just me challenging the information and saying, is this actually true? Because like today, for example, I got caught out by something and I did not think that was true at all. And as it turns out, I think we were both right and we were both wrong. But I don't want people to get put off the Discord because they see things like that, because it's not always like that, trust me. It's a really good collaborative community, really. There's a lot of really good people there, all of us interested in transport and railways. Some people are pursuing it as a career, some of us still see it as a hobby. Do join it, basically, and join the Reddit's community as well. I want everything to start getting a bit of a kick rise from here. So the Discord is pretty healthy actually, but the Reddit could do with some more people, and the YouTube comment section is like a barren wasteland most of the time. So please do, if you're watching the video, even if you just want to say I liked it when you did this, that's absolutely fine. Tell me you liked it. If you didn't like something, tell me you didn't like it, and feel free to hit the dislike button as well. That's what it's there for. But just use the buttons, use the chat, use the boxes. That's what they're there for. It helps me out. It helps me make better content. A lot of people have been saying that the content has improved a lot recently, and it's partially, in fact it's entirely, really down to you guys. I wanted to improve some things myself, like a new microphone, better setup. I'm still toying with the idea of upgrading my PC, even though it's less than 2 years old. But also suggestions from you guys, like better music in time lapses, better recording quality, all that good stuff. And the viewer survey, which is still open, by the way. It was meant to have closed ages ago, but I didn't get enough hits on it, so I kept it open. That's also part of it, so please use that. But yeah, I'm going to start wrapping up properly now, guys. So thank you for watching. Hit the like button, all that good stuff that I've already said. Drop those comments down below. Thank you to everyone in the chat. I can't possibly name you all because there's been quite a lot of you, but I'm very, very grateful to everyone who's taken part in the chat. The like count is just fantastic tonight as well, so thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. We had some new people join the party tonight, which I'm also very, very grateful for. And thank you everyone on Twitch as well. I keep talking about YouTube, but everyone who's been following me on Twitch when I've been streaming these, and all the people who followed me on Twitch tonight too. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But yeah, thank you one more time from the bottom of my heart. It really does mean a lot. And until next time, which may or may not be next week. I can't talk too much about that right now. But there should be an episode next week, let's be honest, because I missed one a couple of weeks ago, but we'll see. But yeah, until then, I will see you soon.